The crosshairs settled on the executioner's temple. Staff Sergeant Maikuri had 3 seconds before he would pull the trigger on the kneeling prisoners below. 3 seconds to compensate for the wind gusting across the ravine. 3 seconds to make a shot that defied every probability table in Marine Corps Scout Sniper Manual. The distance was 1,400 meters. The angle was nearly vertical. The executioner's finger was already tightening on his own weapon, pointed at the back of a woman's head. I exhaled half a breath and held it. Her spotter, Corporal Jazz Ajamosu, whispered the wind call one final time, but I was already inside that place where sound meant nothing, where the whole world narrowed to the reticle and the target and the space between heartbeats. She pressed the trigger. The M40A6 bucked against her shoulder. For one eternal second, the bullet flew across impossible distance, dropping, curving, seeking. Then the executioner's head snapped back, and he crumpled. The woman he had been about to kill remained frozen on her knees, not understanding yet that death had passed over her. But I understood, because that woman kneeling in the dirt 1,400 meters away was her mother. 36 hours earlier, I had been at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton doing something far less dramatic. She had been teaching a boot private named Desmond Chun how to hold a rifle without flinching like someone had shoved a live rattlesnake into his hands. "You are tensing before the shot," I told him. "The rifle is not your enemy. The rifle does exactly what you tell it to do. You are your own enemy right now." Private Chun was 19 and looked about 12. He had that raw, eager energy of someone who had watched too many war movies and not enough reality. His hands shook as he repositioned his grip on the M4. "Watch," I said. She took the rifle from him and settled into a shooting stance that had become more natural to her than standing upright. Her body remembered this. Her muscles knew this language. She fired 3 rounds downrange in a grouping tight enough to cover with a quarter. She handed the weapon back to Chun. "Now you do not try to fight the recoil. You accept it. You become part of the system. The rifle, your body, the bullet, the target. All one thing." Chun tried again. This time his grouping was merely terrible instead of catastrophic. "Better," I said. "Tomorrow you will do better still." The kid grinned at her like she had handed him a medal. "Staff Sergeant Curry, how did you get so good at this?" "Practice," I said. Then she walked away before he could ask the questions that always followed. The questions about where she learned to shoot, about the accent that still colored certain words no matter how many years she spent erasing it, about the places she had been before she wore this uniform. She headed toward the barracks, but Gunnery Sergeant Owen Briggs intercepted her outside the armory. Briggs was a brick wall of a man with a shaved head and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite by someone who had run out of patience halfway through. He had been my instructor at Scout Sniper School and had recommended her for the program when half the command thought allowing women into the MOS was asking for disaster. "Curry," Briggs said, "someone left something for you at the admin building." I felt ice touch the base of her spine. No one left her things. No one knew her well enough to leave her things. She kept her circle small and her history smaller. "What kind of something?" she asked. "An envelope," Briggs said. "No return address. The clerk said a civilian dropped it off an hour ago. I would have opened it myself, but your name was on it." I took the envelope from him. Standard manila. No markings except her name written in handwriting she had not seen in 14 years. Handwriting that belonged to someone she had watched die in a refugee camp when she was 13 years old. Her hands did not shake. She had trained them not to shake. But something in her chest constricted like a fist closing. "You good?" Briggs asked. "Fine," I said. She walked to the barracks and locked herself in her quarters before opening the envelope. Inside was a single photograph and a piece of paper with an address written on it. The photograph showed 3 people. A woman in her 50s with gray threading through dark hair. A young man around 19 with the same sharp features I saw in her own mirror every morning. A teenage girl with eyes that still held light despite whatever they had seen. Mai's mother, Mai's brother, Mai's sister. All 3 of them were supposed to be dead. Mai had spent 14 years believing they were dead. She had built an entire life on the foundation of their deaths. She had joined the Marines because there was nothing left to go back to, nothing left to protect, nothing left to save. The paper trembled in her hand now. The address was in a region she knew too well, a region she had sworn never to think about again, a region where warlords ran human trafficking networks through the same refugee routes that had brought Mai to America as a child. Someone knocked on her door. Mai shoved the photograph and paper back into the envelope and opened the door to find Corporal Ajamosu standing there with 2 energy drinks and a grin. Figured you could use caffeine after dealing with Private Flinch all afternoon, Jazz said. That kid is going to shoot his own foot off before he qualifies. Mai took one of the drinks. Jazz was the closest thing she had to a friend. They had been through 2 deployments together. Jazz knew when to talk and when to shut up and which of those was needed at any given moment. You look like someone kicked your dog, Jazz said. I do not have a dog, Mai said. Exactly. So what kicked you? Mai considered the envelope on her bunk. Considered the impossibility it represented. Considered that someone knew where she was and what mattered to her, and had chosen now to deliver information that could either be a gift or a weapon. Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know what state you are watching from. Maybe you know someone who served as a refugee before joining the military. I need to make a phone call, Mai told Jazz. Jazz studied her face with the kind of attention a good spotter brought to wind reading. Something serious. Maybe, Mai said. You need backup for something serious, Jazz said. It was not a question. Not yet, Mai said. But if I do, you'll be the first person I call. After Jazz left, Mai sat on her bunk and looked at the photograph again. Her mother's face. Older, harder, but alive. Her brother Rashid, who had been 5 years old the last time she saw him. Her sister Amira, who had not even been born yet when I fled. She turned the paper over. On the back was a single sentence written in the same handwriting. They are alive because I allow it. They will die when I choose. Unless you come home. There was no signature. It did not need to be. Mai knew exactly who had sent this. She knew his name and his face and the sound of his voice giving orders to execute her father while she hid in a drainage ditch 3 meters away. Warlord Bashir Kazem, the man who had created more refugees than drought and famine combined. The man who ran the largest human trafficking network in 3 countries. The man who had held her family for 14 years while Mai thought they were dead. Mai pulled out her phone and dialed a number she had memorized but never called. It rang 4 times before someone answered. This is Staff Sergeant Mai Corey, she said. Serial number 2187654. I need to speak to someone in intelligence about a classified matter. The voice on the other end asked her to hold. Mai stared at the photograph while she waited. At her mother's eyes. At the message hidden there beneath the exhaustion and fear. The message that said her daughter was not the only one who had learned to survive impossible things. The voice came back on the line and transferred her. Mai began talking. She told them about the envelope, about Kazem, about the address and what it might mean. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then the intelligence officer said something that made Mai's world shift on its axis. We have been looking for Bashir Kazem for 6 years, the officer said. If you can confirm this location, if your family can provide testimony about his operations, we can finally bring him down. But this will not be a standard rescue operation. This will be deep behind hostile lines. High risk, probably no official support. I understand, Mai said. Are you asking permission or forgiveness? The officer asked. I'm asking for a chance to save my family, Mai said. Stand by, the officer told her. Do not do anything until you hear from us. We will be in touch within 24 hours. Mai ended the call and lay back on her bunk. She held the photograph against her chest and felt something she had not allowed herself to feel in 14 years. Hope was a dangerous thing for a sniper. Hope made you hesitate. Hope made you believe in second chances and redemption and the possibility that broken things could be made whole. But Mai let herself feel it anyway, just for a moment. Just long enough to remember why she had learned to shoot in the first place. Not to kill, to protect, to save, to make sure no one else lost their family the way she had lost hers. Except now, there was a chance she had not lost them at all. Outside her window, the California sun set over Camp Pendleton. Somewhere 14 time zones away, Her family was watching a different sun rise over a prison she could not yet see. But she would. Soon. And when she did, Bashir Kazem would learn something the Marine Corps had spent 6 years teaching her. That Staff Sergeant Mai Khoury never missed. The call came at 0 for 30. Ma was already awake. She had not slept. She had spent the night doing what snipers do best, watching and waiting and running scenarios through her mind until every variable had been calculated and every angle measured. Report to Building 723 at 0600, the voice said. Bring your gear. Tell no one. My dressed in the dark. She pulled on her utilities with the same mechanical precision she brought to field stripping a rifle. Every movement practiced, every motion economical. She grabbed her pack, already loaded with the essentials. Then she walked across the silent base while the rest of Camp Pendleton still slept. Building 723 was a nondescript concrete structure near the intelligence offices. Mai had walked past it 1,000 times without knowing what happened inside. Now she was about to find out. 2 Marines in civilian clothes met her at the door. No names were offered. No hands were shaken. They scanned her ID, checked her against a list, then led her down a corridor to a briefing room. Inside, Gunnery Sergeant Briggs sat at a conference table next to a man in his 40s wearing a polo shirt and khakis. The man had the kind of face that was designed to be forgotten. Average height, average build. Nothing remarkable except his eyes, which missed absolutely nothing. Staff Sergeant Khoury, the man said. I am Mr. Castellanos. I work for people who do not exist, doing things that never happened. Your gunnery sergeant has vouched for your abilities and your discretion. Ma looked at Briggs. He gave her a slight nod. Castellanos opened a folder. Inside were surveillance photographs of a compound in mountainous terrain. The same address from the envelope. Ma felt her pulse quicken, but kept her face neutral. Bashir Kazem, Castellanos said. Former military officer turned entrepreneur. His business is human misery. Trafficking. Slavery. Ransom. He's been operating for 15 years, and we have never been able to touch him because he has government officials on his payroll, and because he is very good at staying hidden. Until now, Mai said. Until now, Castellanos agreed. Your family has been held in this compound for approximately 12 years. Before that, they were moved through 3 different camps. Kazem kept them alive because he knew someday you might be useful. He has been watching your career, waiting for you to become valuable enough to leverage. Mai's hands clenched under the table. How many others does he have? At this location, approximately 60 refugees. Men, women, children. Some have been there for years. Others are recent acquisitions. Kazem uses them for labor, ransom, and occasionally as human shields when things get complicated. Briggs leaned forward. The mission is simple in theory. Insert a small team. Confirm Kazem's location and verify intelligence on his network. Extract your family and as many refugees as possible. Capture or eliminate Kazem. And in practice, Mai asked. In practice, this is a nightmare, Castellanos said. The compound is in a region where we have no official presence. No air support. No quick reaction force. No backup if things go wrong. You go in quiet and you come out quiet, or you do not come out at all. What is the team composition? Mai asked. You, Briggs, and 3 others, Castellanos said. All Marines. All volunteers. All with specialties we need. This is not an official operation. If you are caught, the United States government will deny any knowledge of your actions. You will be disavowed. Mai looked at the photographs again. At the high walls surrounding the compound. At the guard towers. At the terrain that offered exactly one viable approach and a dozen ways to die. When do we leave? She asked. 72 hours, Castellanos said. But first I need to know something. Can you do this? Not the tactical aspect. I know you're capable there. Can you go into that compound knowing your family is inside and still be a Marine? Still follow orders. Still put the mission above personal attachment. Mai met his eyes. She thought about her mother kneeling in the dirt. About her brother and sister who she had never really known. About 14 years of believing they were dead. My family is alive because I spent 14 years becoming someone who could save them, Mai said. I will not waste that by falling apart when it matters most. I will do my job. Then I will bring them home. Castellanos studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded and closed the folder. You have 3 days to prepare, he said. Briggs will brief you on the team. Memorize everything in this folder, then burn it. Do not write anything down. Do not tell anyone where you are going. As far as Camp Pendleton is concerned, you are on a training exercise. Understood, I said. Castellanos stood. One more thing. Chasm knows you are coming. This is a trap as much as it is a rescue. He wants you there. We do not know why. So assume everything is designed to put you in a specific position at a specific time. Assume he has planned for every contingency. Assume the only advantage you have is that he underestimates how far you are willing to go. He does not know me then, I said. No, Castellanos said. He knows the girl who ran away 14 years ago. He does not know Staff Sergeant Corey. Show him the difference. After Castellanos left, and Briggs sat alone in the briefing room. Briggs pulled out another folder, this one containing personnel files. Your team, he said. Corporal Jazz Ajamosu you already know. She is your spotter and has more combat experience than most gunnery sergeants. Sergeant Lucas Fan, demolitions and breaching. Quiet kid, but he can make a door out of a wall or a wall out of a door depending on what you need. Corporal Ty Harrington, communications and intelligence. If it transmits a signal, he can hear it, crack it, or fake it. And you, I said. I am old and slow, but I have done this kind of thing before, Briggs said. Unofficial things. The kind where you trust your team more than you trust the people who sent you. Why did you volunteer, I asked. Briggs was quiet for a moment. Because 6 years ago, I put your name forward for Scout Sniper School, and half the command said it was a waste of time. They said you would wash out. They said women did not have what it took. I told them they were wrong. I told them you were the best natural shooter I had seen in 20 years. I need to know I was right. You were right, I said. Then prove it, Briggs said. Bring your family home. Bring everyone in that compound home. And put Bashir Chasm in the ground where he belongs. I spent the next 3 days memorizing maps and satellite imagery until she could close her eyes and walk through the compound in her mind. She studied guard rotations and supply deliveries and the patterns of daily life inside the prison walls. She memorized her family's faces from every photograph intelligence had managed to obtain. Her mother looked tired. Her brother looked angry. Her sister looked like she was trying very hard not to look afraid. On the second day, Jazz cornered her outside the chow hall. You're going somewhere, Jazz said. Somewhere that requires you to study topographical maps at 0300 instead of sleeping. I cannot talk about it, I said. Cannot or will not, Jazz asked. Both, I said. Jazz was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made my throat tighten. Whatever it is, I am going with you. You do not have to tell me why. You do not have to tell me where. But you do not go into bad places without your spotter. That is the rule. This is not your fight, I said. You're my partner, Jazz said. Your fights are my fights. Besides, you are terrible at watching your own back. You get so focused on the target you forget people can shoot at you from other directions. I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell Jazz this was too dangerous. That this was personal in ways that made it more complicated than any deployment they had been through together. But she knew Jazz well enough to know the argument was already lost. Thank you, I said quietly. Jazz grinned. Thank me by not getting us killed. I have a nephew's birthday party in 3 months, and I already bought the present. On the third day, the team assembled in a hangar on the edge of base. Sergeant Fan was exactly as Briggs described. Compact and efficient with hands that moved with the confidence of someone who understood how things broke and how to break them precisely. Corporal Harrington was tall and thin with the distracted air of someone always listening to signals no one else could hear. Briggs ran them through the mission profile. Insertion by unmarked helicopter 40 clicks from target. Hiking on foot through mountain terrain. Establish overwatch position. Conduct reconnaissance. Confirm Chasm's presence in refugee locations. Plan extraction. Execute. Simple, Fan said. Nothing about this is simple, Harrington muttered. That is why it will work, Briggs said. Chasm expects complicated. He expects a full assault with air support and overwhelming force. He does not expect 5 Marines to walk in through the front door. Are we actually walking in through the front door? Jazz asked. No, Briggs said. Corey is. The rest of us will be providing support and securing the exit route. I looked at the compound layout again. At the single entrance designed to funnel attackers into a kill zone. At the guard towers with overlapping fields of fire. At the central building where intelligence suggested Chasm conducted his business and where her family was most likely being held. I will need a clear line of sight to the main entrance, I said. Approximately 800 meters. High ground. There's a ridge here, Briggs said, pointing to the map. It gives you the angle and the distance, but also leaves you exposed if they have counter-snipers. They will not be looking for one person, I said. They will be looking for an army. The team spent the rest of the day running drills, practicing communication protocols, rehearsing contingencies. By nightfall, Mai's legs ached and her hands were steady and her mind was clear. She called her family that night, not the family in the compound, the other family, the American family who had taken in a 13-year-old refugee and given her a chance to become someone new. Her foster mother answered on the third ring. Mai, what a wonderful surprise. How are you? I am good, I said. I just wanted to hear your voice. Are you sure everything is okay? You sound different. I am about to do something difficult, I said. Something important. I wanted you to know that everything you gave me, everything you taught me about being strong and being brave, I'm going to use it now. There was a long pause. Then her foster mother said quietly, whatever you are about to do, come home safe. You hear me? You come home. I will, I said. I promise. She ended the call before the emotions she had been holding back could break through her control. She had one more night to be Staff Sergeant Corey before she became something else entirely. The daughter who came back. The sister who refused to abandon her blood. The Marine who would walk into hell if that was where her family waited. Tomorrow, the mission began. Tomorrow, she would find out if 14 years of training and sacrifice and becoming someone new had been enough. Tomorrow, Bashir Chasm would discover what happened when you gave a refugee a rifle and time to learn how to use it. The helicopter dropped them at dawn in terrain that looked like the surface of a dead planet. Rocky slopes covered in scrub brush. Deep ravines cutting through ancient stone. A landscape that had been fighting humans for thousands of years and winning. Ma was the first one out. She hit the ground running, weapon up, scanning for threats while the rest of the team deployed. The helicopter lifted off immediately, rotors fading to nothing in seconds. No one would know they had ever been here. No one would come looking if they disappeared. They were alone now. 5 Marines and 40 clicks of hostile territory between them and the target. Briggs took point. They moved in a tactical column through the pre-dawn darkness, using night vision to navigate terrain that wanted to break ankles and snap necks. Mai carried her M40A6 like it was part of her body. 22 pounds of precision instrument that had never let her down. Jazz moved beside her with a spotting scope and rangefinder. Behind them, Fan carried enough explosives to level a city block, all packed so carefully it would not detonate if he fell off a cliff. Harrington brought up the rear with communication gear and enough electronic warfare equipment to jam or intercept anything within 5 clicks. They hiked for 6 hours without speaking. Hand signals only. Every step measured. Every sound evaluated. This was the part civilians never understood about war. Not the violence. The waiting. The endless, careful movement through spaces that wanted you dead. The sun climbed and the temperature rose. By mid-morning, they were sweating through their gear in 100-degree heat. Mai's legs burned, but she kept pace. She had hiked worse terrain in worse conditions. She had learned to embrace discomfort until it became just another sensation her mind could file away and ignore. At 1100 hours, Briggs called a halt in a shallow depression that offered concealment and shade. They drank water and ate MREs that tasted like cardboard pressed into various shapes. Fan pulled out his tablet and showed them the updated satellite imagery from 6 hours ago. The compound looked exactly as it had in the briefing. High walls, guard towers, 1 entrance. I count 8 guards visible, Fan said. Probably double that inside. Chasm is not stupid. He knows someone might come eventually. Does he know we're already here? Jazz asked. Not yet, Harrington said. I am monitoring all communications in a 50-click radius. Nothing unusual. Standard guard rotations. Supply truck scheduled to arrive at 1400. That is our window, Briggs said. Everyone will be focused on the delivery. Security relaxes when routine kicks in. That is when Corey establishes her position on the ridge. I studied the terrain between their current location and the ridge that would give her the shot. 3 clicks of open ground. No cover except scattered rocks and the occasional dried stream bed. She would have to move in daylight. Slowly, using every bit of fieldcraft she had learned. I will need 4 hours, I said. Maybe 5 if the wind is bad. You have 6, Briggs said. We move into position at dusk. Full dark at 2100. That gives us night cover for the breach. What about civilians? Jazz asked. Intelligence said 60 refugees. We cannot extract 60 people quietly. We are not extracting 60 people tonight, Briggs said. Tonight is reconnaissance and confirmation. We verify Chasm's location. We verify Corey's family. We map the interior. Then we call for the extraction team. There is no extraction team, I said quietly. Briggs looked at her. Castellanos said we would have support. Castellanos said many things, I said, but we both know how this works. If we succeed, they will send people to clean up and take credit. If we fail, we were never here. There is no backup. There is no support. There is only us. The team was quiet for a moment. Then Fan laughed, a short, sharp sound. Well then, Fan said, I guess we better not fail. They rested until 1300. Then Briggs, Jazz, Fan, and Harrington began their approach to the compound perimeter while I separated and headed for the ridge. Moving alone through hostile territory was different than moving with a team. Quieter, more focused, every sense dialed to maximum. I became part of the landscape. She moved when the wind moved. She froze when birds took flight. She read the terrain like a language she had been born speaking. It took her 5 hours to cover 3 clicks. 5 hours of crawling and waiting and breathing so slowly her chest barely moved. By the time she reached the ridge, the sun was touching the horizon, and her ghillie suit was covered in dust and dried vegetation that made her invisible against the rock. She set up her position with the same care a surgeon would bring to an operating theater. Every piece of equipment placed precisely. Rifle rested on a stable base. Spotting scope angled to cover the compound entrance. Range finder calibrated. Wind meter positioned to catch the prevailing breeze. Then she settled in to watch. The compound spread below her like a diagram from the intelligence briefings. The walls were 12 feet high, topped with razor wire. 4 guard towers, 1 at each corner. The main building sat in the center, 2 stories of reinforced concrete with narrow windows. Smaller structures clustered around it. Barracks maybe. Storage. The place where refugees were kept like inventory. I glassed the compound methodically. Left to right. Top to bottom. Counting guards. Noting weapons. Mapping patrol patterns. She saw 8 guards visible, just like the satellite had shown. 2 in each tower. For roaming the perimeter. Then the front gate opened and a supply truck rolled in. I watched through her scope as guards surrounded the vehicle. As workers emerged from the main building to unload crates. As a man in expensive clothes walked out to supervise. Bashir Chasm. I knew his face from photographs and from memory. Older now, gray in his beard, but the same eyes, the same casual arrogance, the same way of standing like he owned everything he could see. Her finger touched the trigger. The distance was 840 meters. Wind was negligible. Angle was good. She could take the shot right now. End him before he knew she existed. But that was not the mission. Not yet. First, she needed to find her family. Needed to verify they were alive and locate exactly where they were being held. Needed to give the team time to position. She forced her finger away from the trigger and kept watching. The workers unloaded the truck under Chasm's supervision. Food, water, supplies. I noted everything. Noted which building the supplies went to. Noted the guard patterns during the delivery. Noted the moment of chaos when everyone was moving and attention was divided. That was when she saw her mother. Layla Khoury emerged from one of the smaller buildings, carrying an empty crate. She looked thinner than in the photographs. Older, worn down by years of captivity, but alive, moving, working. Mai's breath caught. For 14 years, she had believed this woman was dead, had grieved her, had built a life on top of that grief. And now here she was, 50 meters from Bashir Chasm, still surviving, still enduring. Mai wanted to call out, wanted to wave, wanted to do something to let her mother know she was here. That help had come, that the daughter who ran away had finally come back. But she stayed silent, stayed still, stayed professional. Her radio crackled with Briggs' voice, barely a whisper. Curry, position report. In position, Mai said. Eyes on primary target. Confirmed chasm on site. Civilian asset spotted. She did not say which civilian asset. Did not say mother. Saying it out loud would make it too real. Would make it personal in a way that could compromise the mission. Copy, Briggs said. We are in position at the north wall. Fan has identified the weak point for entry. Harrington is monitoring their communications. They have not detected us. Good, Mai said. I have the entrance covered. No guard activity change. Supply delivery wrapping up. She watched her mother carry the crate back inside. Watched Chasm inspect the remaining supplies. Watched the truck prepare to leave. Then she saw something that made her blood turn cold. 2 guards emerged from the main building, dragging someone between them. A young man, thin, bruised, fighting against the grip on his arms, even though it was clearly futile. Rashid, her brother. The guards threw him to the ground in front of Chasm. Mai could not hear what was being said, but she could read the body language. Chasm was angry. Rashid was defiant. This had happened before. This was a familiar pattern. Chasm pulled out a pistol. Mai's world narrowed. The wind, the distance, the angle. She could take the shot. Could put a bullet through Chasm's head before he pulled the trigger. Could save her brother right now. But taking that shot would compromise the mission. Would alert every guard. Would trap the team. Would probably get everyone killed, including the brother she was trying to save. Do not do it, Jazz's voice said in her ear. Jazz could see her through the spotting scope. Could read her body language even from 3 clicks away. Whatever you are seeing, we need you to hold. Mai's finger trembled on the trigger. She watched Chasm press the pistol against Rashid's temple. Watched her brother close his eyes. Watched her mother scream something from the doorway. Then Chasm laughed and lowered the weapon. He said something to Rashid, something cruel based on the way her brother flinched. Then he kicked him and walked away. The guards dragged Rashid back inside. The moment passed. The compound returned to routine. Mai realized she had stopped breathing. She forced air into her lungs and let out slowly. Curry, Briggs said. Status. Green, I said. But her voice sounded wrong even to her own ears. Night felt like a curtain dropping. The compound lights came on. Guards changed shifts. The temperature dropped from unbearable to merely uncomfortable. Mai stayed in position. She had been trained to stay in position for days, if necessary. To remain absolutely still while her body screamed for movement. To become part of the earth until the mission was complete. At 2200 hours, her radio crackled again. We're going in, Briggs said. Fan is setting the charge on the north wall. Quiet breach. In and out in 15 minutes. You maintain overwatch. Anyone comes through that front gate, you drop them. Understood, Mai said. And Corey, Briggs said. I know what you saw earlier. I know what you wanted to do. The fact that you did not do it is why you are running this mission. Stay focused. We will get your family out. All of them. But only if we do this right. I'm focused, Mai said. She watched through her scope as a small explosion blew a hole in the north wall. Controlled. Precise. Barely louder than a car, backfiring. The team poured through, for shadows moving like smoke. Then alarms started screaming, and the entire compound erupted into chaos. Guards ran toward the north wall. Lights blazed across the compound. Voices shouted in multiple languages. Mai tracked targets through her scope. Watched angles. Waited for someone to emerge through the front gate that would require her intervention. In her ear, she heard Briggs calling targets. Heard Fan setting secondary charges. Heard Harrington jamming communications. Heard Jazz breathing steadily as she fed wind calls. Then she heard something else. Gunfire. Inside the compound. Not the team's suppressed weapons. Different guns. Heavier. Briggs, status, I said. Contact, Briggs said. They were waiting for us. This was a trap. Fall back. Everyone fall back. But falling back meant leaving the refugees. Meant leaving her family. Meant Chasm winning. Ma made a decision. She keyed her radio. Give me targets, she said. I can clear your path. Negative, Briggs said. We need exfil, not fire support. You're not getting out without fire support, I said. So give me targets, or I start picking my own. There was a pause. Then Briggs said something she had never heard him say before. God help us. Guard tower northwest. 2 shooters. I found them. Breathed. Fired. Both guards dropped. Tower southeast, Briggs said. I swung her rifle. Found them. Dropped them. Main building roof, Jazz said. Sniper. He has our position. I found him. A man with a rifle scanning for her team. She fired before he could. The compound was chaos now. Guards running everywhere. But Maya had become death itself. Patient. Precise. Unstoppable. Every shot a prayer. Every target a step closer to bringing her family home. Maya had fired 17 rounds in 3 minutes. 17 targets dropped with the kind of precision that would have seemed impossible if anyone had been counting. But no one was counting. They were running. Briggs and the team fought their way back to the breach point in the north wall. Mai provided covering fire from the ridge, her scope tracking targets faster than her conscious mind could process. Training took over. Muscle memory. The thousands of hours on the range condensing into pure instinct. Hostiles in the courtyard, Jazz called. 3 moving toward the breach. Mai found them. 3 guards running in formation. She led the first one by half a body length to account for movement. Fired. Adjusted. Fired. Adjusted. Fired. All 3 dropped within 2 seconds. We're through the wall, Briggs said. Moving to rally point Alpha. Fan is hit. How bad, Mai asked. Bad enough. Fan's voice came through strained. But I can still run. Probably. Mai watched through her scope as the team emerged from the compound and disappeared into the darkness beyond. She counted them. For shapes. Briggs, Jazz, Harrington, Fan. All moving. All alive. But they had failed. They had verified Chasm's location. They had confirmed her family was alive. But they had not extracted anyone, and now the compound would be locked down tighter than before. Corey, extract, Briggs ordered. We need you mobile. Mai began breaking down her position. Every movement efficient despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She packed her gear with the same care she had used to set it up. A sniper who abandoned equipment was a sniper who would not get another mission. She was halfway through packing when movement in the compound caught her eye. The front gate opened. A vehicle rolled out. Not a truck this time. A luxury SUV. Black. Armored. Windows tinted. I brought her scope up. The vehicle stopped 50 meters from a gate. The rear door opened. Bashir Chasm stepped out. He stood in the open, backlit by the compound lights, making himself a target, daring her to take the shot. He pulled out a phone and held it up. Mais radio cracklet. Different frequency. Civilian band. Staff Sergeant Mike Corey, Chasm's voice said. I know you're out there. I know you're watching. Your team performed admirably, but they were never going to succeed tonight. This entire operation was designed for one purpose. To bring you here. To show you what I have. To make you understand the choice before you. Mai said nothing. She watched him through her scope. 800 meters. Center mass. She could end this right now. You are wondering why you should not simply kill me, Chasm continued. The answer is simple. Because if I die, so does your family. I have given very specific instructions. If my heart stops beating, if I fail to check in every 6 hours, your mother, your brother, and your sister will be executed. You will watch them die, and there will be nothing you can do to stop it. Mai's finger touched the trigger. She wanted to call his bluff. Wanted to believe he was lying. But men like Chasm did not bluff. They planned. They prepared. They always had insurance. So here's my offer, Chasm said. You come to me. Alone. Unarmed. You surrender yourself, and I will release your family. They will be driven to the border and freed. You have my word. Your word means nothing, Mai said into her radio. Perhaps, Chasm said. But what choice do you have? You cannot storm this compound. You just proved that. Your government will not help you. They will deny you exist. You are alone, Sergeant Corey. Alone except for me. I am the only one who can give you what you want. I watched him standing there, confident, in control, knowing he had her exactly where he wanted her. You have until sunrise to decide, Chasm said. Come to the front gate. Alone, or I will send your mother's fingers to you one at a time until you comply. He got back in the SUV and the vehicle returned to the compound. The gate closed behind it. I finished packing her gear and moved off the ridge. She found the team at Rally Point Alpha, 2 clicks north. They had set up a defensive position in a cluster of rocks with good sight lines and cover. Fan sat against a boulder while Jazz worked on his leg. The bullet had gone through his calf. Clean entry and exit. Painful, but not life-threatening if they could keep it from getting infected. I heard the transmission, Briggs said when I arrived. It is a trap. Of course it is a trap, I said. But he is also telling the truth about my family. He will kill them if I do not comply. Then we need a new plan, Harrington said. We pull back. Regroup. Come back with actual support. There is no support coming, I said. We both know that. This was always a one-way mission. Succeed or die trying. We did not die, Jazz said. That counts for something. We also did not succeed, Fan said through gritted teeth. No offense to your shooting, Staff Sergeant, but 17 confirmed kills is not the same as mission accomplished. I sat down and pulled out a map. She studied the compound layout by red light, thought about everything they had learned, about the guard positions and the patrol patterns and the way Chasm had been waiting for them. He knew we were coming, I said. He knew when and he knew how, which means he has intelligence we do not have, which means someone told him, or he is just paranoid and well-prepared, Briggs said. No, I said. This was too specific. The ambush was too well coordinated. He knew about the north wall weakness. He knew we would breach there. Harrington pulled out his tablet. I intercepted communications during the breach. Most of it was standard chatter, but there was one encrypted burst transmission right before we went in. I did not think much of it at the time, but now. Can you trace it, I asked. Already did, Harrington said. It came from Camp Pendleton. Sent 8 hours before we inserted. The team was silent. The implications settled over them like cold water. Someone on base sold us out, Jazz said quietly. Or someone has been watching Corey for a while and saw the mission prep, Briggs said. Either way, Chasm has been 3 steps ahead of us since the beginning. I thought about the envelope that had started all of this. The photograph, the message, the perfect timing. Chasm had orchestrated everything, had manipulated her into exactly this position, had made her desperate enough to come, but not strong enough to win. So what do we do, Finn asked. We give him what he wants, I said. The team stared at her. Absolutely not, Briggs said. Think about it, I said. He wants me to surrender. Want me inside that compound. Why? Because I am leverage. Because the U.S. government might deny knowing about this mission, but they will not let a decorated Marine be paraded on international television. Chasm can use me to negotiate, to get protection, to get money. I am valuable to him alive. You are also dead the moment you stop being useful, Jazz said. Maybe I said. But right now my family is definitely dead if I do nothing. At least if I go in, I buy time. I get inside. I see the layout. I find out exactly where everyone is being held. This is insane, Harrington said. This is the only option we have, I said. She looked at Briggs. You know I am right. Briggs was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that surprised her. If you go in there, you go in wired. Harrington can rig you with a tracker and a transmitter. We will know where you are, and we will hear everything. And when the opportunity comes, we will pull you out along with your family and every other person in that compound. How, I asked. We cannot get in with surprise and superior firepower. How do we get in when they're expecting us? We do not get in, Briggs said. We make them come out. Fan, how much explosive do you have left? Enough to make a very loud statement, Fan said. Then here's what we do, Briggs said. He pulled out the map and began sketching a plan that was either brilliant or suicidal. Possibly both. They spent the next 2 hours preparing. Harrington wired Mai with a tracker so small it fit inside the seam of her uniform. A microphone, even smaller, went into her collar. Jazz helped her memorize guard positions and likely holding locations based on what they had observed. Fan inventoried his remaining explosives and started building something he called a disruption package. When I asked what it would disrupt, he smiled and said everything. At 0400, with dawn still 2 hours away, Mai stood and checked her gear one final time. She was leaving her rifle behind, leaving her sidearm, leaving everything that made her a Marine except the uniform and the training and the absolute certainty that she was going to save her family or die trying. Jazz hugged her, an awkward, crushing embrace that said everything words could not. "You come back," Jazz said. "You hear me. You do not get to die on me. I need my spotter. I will come back, I promised." Briggs walked her to the edge of the rally point. They stood in the darkness, looking toward the compound lights in the distance. "You know this is going to get worse before it gets better," Briggs said. "I know," I said. "You know Chasm is going to hurt you, going to try to break you, going to use your family against you in ways you cannot imagine." "I know," I said. "And you're still walking in there." "I'm still walking in there," I said, "because they're my family and I left them once. I will not leave them again." Briggs nodded. Then he said something she would remember for the rest of her life. 6 years ago, I told the command you were the best natural shooter I had seen in 20 years. I was wrong. You're the best Marine I have seen in 20 years. Go show Bashir Chasm what happens when he underestimates someone who has nothing left to lose." I started walking. She did not look back. Looking back was for people who had doubts. She had none. The compound grew larger with each step. The walls, the towers, the lights, the place where her family waited and where Chasm thought he had won. He had not won. Not yet. He had simply moved the pieces into position for the endgame. And my Corey had spent 14 years learning how to win games that everyone else thought were already over. She reached the front gate as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. She stood in the open, hands raised, unarmed, alone. The gate opened. Bashir Chasm stood waiting with a smile that promised pain and a confidence that promised he knew exactly how this would end. He was wrong about that too. He just did not know it yet. They took her weapons first. Not that she had any. Then they took her dignity. The guards stripped her gear piece by piece while Chasm watched with the detached interest of someone appraising livestock. They found the tracker immediately, crushed it under a boot heel. The microphone lasted slightly longer, hidden in her collar seam, until one of the guards ran a wand over her, and the device beeped betrayal. Chasm held the tiny microphone up to the light. He smiled. "Did you think I would not check?" he asked. "Did you think I survived 15 years in this business by being careless?" He crushed the microphone between his fingers. Now I was truly alone. No way for the team to track her. No way for them to hear what was happening. She had walked into the trap, and the trap had closed with absolute finality. "Strip her," Chasm ordered. The guards hesitated. I was still wearing the uniform of a United States Marine. There were rules about such things. International laws. Consequences. Chasm pulled out a pistol and shot one of the guards in the leg. The man screamed and fell. "I will not repeat myself," Chasm said. They stripped her down to nothing. Took her uniform. Took her boots. Took everything that connected her to the identity she had built over 14 years. When they were done, she stood in the compound courtyard wearing only undergarments and the cold certainty that this was going to be worse than anything she had imagined. Chasm circled her slowly, studying her, looking for weaknesses the way she had been trained to look for targets. "You have scars," he observed. "Here on your shoulder, here on your ribs. Training accidents or combat wounds?" "Both," I said, her voice steady despite everything. "You have become hard," Chasm said. "When you were 13 and hiding in that drainage ditch while I executed your father, you were soft, afraid, weak. Now you're something else. The Americans made you into a weapon." "How interesting." I said nothing. She would not give him the satisfaction of a reaction. "Do you know why I kept your family alive all these years?" Chasm asked. "It was not kindness. It was investment. I knew someday that frightened little girl would become someone useful, someone the Americans would value, someone I could leverage. And here you are, exactly as I predicted." He walked to the main building and gestured for the guards to bring her. They grabbed her arms and dragged her inside, down a corridor, downstairs into darkness, into a basement that smelled of fear and old blood. They threw her into a cell. Concrete floor, concrete walls, a single barred window high up that let in a slash of morning light. Nothing else. No bed, no blanket, no dignity. The door slammed. The lock engaged. Ma was alone in the silence. She sat on the floor and took inventory of her situation. No weapons, no communication, no rescue coming anytime soon. Her team was 4 clicks away with a wounded member and no way to breach the compound. Her family was somewhere in this building, close enough to hear, but impossibly far away. The only thing she had was time. Time to think, time to plan, time to remember every lesson the Marine Corps had taught her about survival and resistance. She thought about SEER training. Survival, evasion, resistance, escape. The crucible every Marine went through to prepare for exactly this situation. They had broken her down and built her back up, had taught her how the mind worked under stress, had shown her that pain was temporary, but giving up was permanent. The instructors had been thorough. They had simulated capture, interrogation, torture. They had pushed her to the edge of what she could endure and then pushed further. And through it all they had taught her one central truth. You could take everything from a person except the choice of how they responded. I chose to be patient, chose to conserve energy, chose to wait for the opportunity that always came if you survived long enough to see it. Hours passed. The light through the window moved across the wall, tracking time. I did push-ups to stay warm, did squats to keep her legs from cramping, did breathing exercises to keep her mind clear. At what she estimated was noon, the door opened. 2 guards entered with a bucket of water and a piece of bread. They set them down and left without speaking. The water was brackish, but I drank it anyway. The bread was stale, but she ate it. Fuel was fuel. At what she estimated was evening, Chasm returned. He brought a chair and sat outside the cell bars like he was visiting a zoo exhibit. Your team tried to breach the south wall 2 hours ago, he said. We drove them back. One of them is dead. A young man, Hispanic, good with explosives from what my men tell me. My heart stopped. Fan. He was talking about Fan. You were lying, I said. Perhaps, Chasm said. Or perhaps your surrender accomplished nothing except giving me a hostage while your friends die, trying to save you. How does that feel, knowing you traded yourself for nothing? My forced her expression neutral. He was testing her, probing for weakness. She would give him nothing. Tell me about your training, Chasm said. How does a refugee become a Marine sniper? That is quite a journey. I said nothing. Silent treatment, Chasm said. How tedious. Let me tell you what I know instead. I know you entered the United States at age 13 through a refugee resettlement program. I know you were placed with a family in Virginia. I know you joined the Marine Corps at 18. I know you qualified for Scout Sniper School on your first try despite being one of only 3 women to attempt it that year. I know you have 17 confirmed kills from your last deployment. I know your service record is impeccable. I know you are valuable. He leaned closer to the bars. But I also know you left your family behind. Abandoned them. Saved yourself while they suffered. Does that keep you awake at night, Sergeant Corey? Does the guilt make you want to prove you are not the coward who ran? I looked him in the eyes. She spoke quietly, clearly. I was 13 years old. I watched you murder my father. I hid for 3 days in that drainage ditch, living on rainwater and fear. When I finally crawled out, the refugee camp was chaos. I searched for my family for 2 weeks. I was told they were dead. I believed it because what else could I believe? I did not abandon them. I survived, and I spent every day since then becoming someone who could make sure what happened to my family would never happen to anyone else. Chasm smiled. Good. Anger. Emotion. That is much better than silence. Emotion means I am reaching you. He stood and walked to the door. Then he turned back. Tomorrow I will bring your mother to this cell. I will let you speak to her. I will let you see that she is alive and that I control whether she stays that way. And then you will tell me everything I want to know about Marine operations in this region, about intelligence gathering methods, about extraction protocols. You will become my asset, or you will watch everyone you love die slowly. Those are your options. The door closed. The lock engaged. I was alone again. But this time, she was not thinking about her situation. She was thinking about what Chasm had revealed. He wanted information, which meant he saw her as valuable for intelligence, not just as leverage, which meant he would keep her alive longer than he would keep her comfortable. That was an advantage, a small one. But in her situation, small advantages were everything. She thought about Fan, about whether Chasm was telling the truth, about whether her team had really tried to breach again, or if it was psychological warfare. She had no way to know, no way to verify. All she could do was assume the worst and hope for the best. The night settled over the compound. Through her window, Mike could hear guards changing shifts, could hear the sounds of the compound settling into its evening routine, could hear, faintly, someone crying in another cell. She pressed her ear against the wall. The crying was female, young, possibly her sister. Mike tapped on the wall. A simple rhythm, the pattern their father had taught them when they were children playing games in their house before the war. Before everything fell apart, the crying stopped. A moment later, a tap came back. The same rhythm. Recognition. Mike tapped again. 4 taps. The code for I am here. The response came back. 5 taps. The code for I know. Then 3 taps. The code for I love you. Mike pressed her forehead against the cold concrete. Her sister was alive, was close, was still fighting despite years of captivity, still remembered their father's games, still held on to pieces of who they had been before. Mike tapped back. 3 taps. I love you. Then she tapped something else. 6 taps. The code they had created for Be Ready. Because Maya had not surrendered. She had infiltrated. And tomorrow, when Chasm brought her mother to this cell, when he thought he was breaking her by forcing her to see her family suffering, he would actually be giving her exactly what she needed. Information, position, confirmation of location. The pieces were moving into place. The game was not over. It had just entered a new phase. And my Corey had been playing the long game since she was 13 years old. She knew how to lose battles in service of winning wars, knew how to endure, knew how to wait. Chasm thought he had won by capturing her. He had actually made his first and possibly fatal mistake. He had brought her inside, had put her exactly where she needed to be, had given her access to the one thing that mattered more than any weapon, her family. Tomorrow would bring pain, would bring psychological torture, would bring tests of will and endurance. I welcomed it, because every moment she survived was a moment closer to the reckoning Chasm did not see coming. The reckoning delivered by a refugee who had become a legend, who had learned to shoot, who had learned to survive, who had learned that sometimes the only way to save what you loved was to walk straight into hell and refuse to burn. She lay on the concrete floor and closed her eyes. Tomorrow would be hard, but she was ready. She had been preparing for this her entire life. The frightened girl in the drainage ditch was gone. In her place was Staff Sergeant Mike Corey, and she was just getting started. Morning came with the sound of boots on concrete. I was already awake, already standing, already prepared for whatever came next. The cell door opened and Chasm entered with 4 guards. He looked fresh, well-rested, a man who had slept comfortably while his prisoner spent the night on cold concrete. "Good morning, Sergeant Corey," he said. "I trust you slept well." I said nothing, still silent, still defiant. "Good. That makes what comes next more satisfying." He gestured, and the guard dragged someone else into the cell. A woman. Thin, gray hair, eyes that had seen too much suffering. But underneath all that, Mike could see the face from her childhood, the face that had tucked her in at night, the face that had sung lullabies in a language that belonged to a country that no longer existed. Her mother. Layla Corey looked at Mai for a long moment. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened, but no sound came out. 14 years of believing her daughter was dead, safe, far away. And now here she was, captured, imprisoned, dragged into the same hell her mother had endured. "No," Layla finally whispered. "No, you should not be here. You were supposed to be safe." Maestrat Tigdened. She wanted to go to her mother, wanted to embrace her, wanted to tell her everything would be okay. But the guard stood between them, and any movement would be seen as aggression. Chasm smiled. Touching, is it not? Mother and daughter reunited. though perhaps not under the circumstances either of you hoped for. He pulled out a knife. Not a large knife. Something small and precise. The kind used for detailed work. Here is how this will proceed, Chasm said. I will ask you questions. For each question you refuse to answer, I will cut your mother. Small cuts. Nothing fatal. Just painful. Just enough to make her scream. And you will watch. And you will understand that her suffering is your choice. Ma looked at her mother. Layla shook her head slightly. A warning. A plea. Do not give him anything. First question, Chasm said. How many Marines are in your support team? Ma said nothing. Chasm grabbed Layla's hand and made a quick, shallow cut across her palm. Layla gasped but did not scream. She bit down on the sound. Refused to give him the satisfaction. For, I said. For Marines. Chasm smiled. Progress. Second question. What are their specialties? Communications. Demolitions. Sniper spotter. Team leader, I said. Good. Third question. What is their extraction plan? Me hesitated. This was the question that mattered. The question that could get her team killed. Chasm raised a knife. They have no extraction plan, I said. This was a one-way mission. We expected to die here. Chasm studied her face, looking for the lie, looking for any sign that she was holding back. I believe you, he said finally. Your government is predictable. They send people into situations like this with no support. Deniable operations. Expendable assets. You were always going to die here. The only question was how much pain you would endure first. He wiped the knife clean on his sleeve. Fourth question. Why did you really come? Not the official reason. The real reason. To save my family, I said. Even knowing it was a trap. Even knowing you would fail. Yes, I said. Chasm laughed. How American. How sentimental. You threw away a career, a life, a future, for people you have not seen in 14 years. For family that might not even remember you. That is either profound love or profound stupidity. I cannot decide which. It is love, Layla said quietly. Something you would not understand. Chasm turned to her. Oh, I understand love. I understand how it makes people weak. How it makes them predictable. How it makes them do exactly what I want them to do. He gestured to the guards. Take the mother back to her cell. I am done with her for now. The guards grabbed Layla. She looked at my one last time. I am proud of you, Layla said. Whatever happens, know that I am proud. You became strong. You became someone who fights. That is what I always wanted for you. Then she was gone, dragged out of the cell. The door closed behind her. Chasm remained. He sat in his chair and studied Mai with the interest of someone examining an unexpected puzzle. You're not what I expected, he said. I thought you would break easier. Thought seeing your mother hurt would make you compliant. But you gave me tactical information I could verify through observation. Nothing valuable. Nothing that helps me. You played the game correctly. I said nothing. So let me tell you what happens next. Chasm continued. Tonight, I will bring your brother. Tomorrow, I will bring your sister. I will hurt them in front of you. I will make you watch. And eventually, you will tell me what I want to know. Not because you are weak, but because love is weakness. Because caring about people gives others power over you. Because you cannot watch them suffer indefinitely. Or, I said, you could just kill me now. Save yourself the trouble. Chasm smiled. And waste such a valuable asset. No, you are worth far more alive. The Americans will pay to get you back. We'll negotiate. We'll make concessions. You are a decorated Marine held captive by a warlord. The media attention alone is worth millions. And if they refuse to deal, there are other buyers. Enemies of America who would love to interrogate you, to learn your methods, to parade you as proof of American weakness. He stood and walked to the door. So no, Sergeant Curry, you do not get to die. You get to live. You get to watch. You get to suffer. And you get to learn what your choice to come here has cost the people you love. After he left, I sat on the floor and processed everything. Chasm had revealed more than he intended. He planned to ransom her, which meant he would keep her alive for weeks, possibly months, which meant she had time. Time for her team to regroup. Time for an opportunity to emerge. Time to find the weakness in this prison. She tapped on the wall again, the rhythm from last night. Her sister tapped back immediately, then added something new. 7 taps. Ma did not know what 7 meant. They had never created a code for 7. She tapped back a question. 2 taps. What? 7 taps again. Insistent. My thought about it. 7. What could 7 mean? 7 days. 7 people. 7 guards. 7. Then she understood. 7 was not a code from childhood. 7 was new. 7 was her sister creating communication in real time. 7 was the number of guards on the current shift. My tap back confirmation. 1 tap. Yes. Then she tapped something else. 8 taps followed by a question. How many prisoners? The response came slowly. Too many to tap individually. Instead, her sister tapped in groups. Then taps. Pause. 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 8 taps. 58 prisoners. 58 people Chasm held captive. 58 reasons why any rescue needed to be more than just extracting Mai's family. Mitapt acknowledgement. Then she tapped the most important question. 5 taps followed by 2. Where are you? The response was 3 taps. Pause. 4 taps. Cell 3. Block 4. Ma memorized it. Cell 3. Block 4. Her sister was 2 blocks away. Close, but not adjacent. Ma was in block 2 based on the number she had seen on the cell door. She tapped one more question. 1 tap. Pause. 5 taps. Where's brother? The response made her stomach drop. 1 tap. Pause. 1 tap. Cell 1. Block 1. Her brother was in the isolation block, the place where Chasm kept prisoners who needed special attention. Prisoners who had tried to escape. Prisoners who had fought back. Prisoners who were being broken. Ma closed her eyes and forced down the rage. Rashid was 19, had spent most of his life in captivity. And still he fought. Still he resisted. That kind of courage deserved support, not sympathy. She spent the rest of the day mapping the compound in her mind, matching sounds to locations. Guard changes happened every 6 hours. Meal delivery came twice daily. There was a generator that ran constantly, likely powering lights and ventilation. The compound had a rhythm, a pattern. Patterns could be exploited. Evening came. The door opened again. This time they brought her brother. Rashid looked worse than their mother. Bruised. Cut. One eye swollen shut. He had been beaten recently and thoroughly. But when he saw Mai, something flickered in his good eye. Recognition followed by horror, followed by anger. You should not have come, he said in their native language. You were free. You were safe. Why did you come back? Because you are my brother, Mai answered in the same language. Because family does not abandon family. Chasm entered behind him. He had not brought the knife this time. He had brought something worse. A set of pliers. Your brother has been difficult, Chasm said. He tried to escape 6 times. He attacked guards. He encouraged other prisoners to resist. He has been very brave and very stupid. Tonight, he will learn that bravery has consequences. He grabbed Rashid's hand and positioned the pliers around a fingernail. Last chance, Chasm said to Mai, tell me the radio frequencies your team uses. Tell me their planned extraction point. Tell me something useful, or I pull. Mai looked at her brother. Rashid shook his head. His lips moved silently. Do not. I do not know their extraction point, Mai said. That information was not shared with me. The team leader kept it compartmentalized in case of capture. It was a lie, a believable lie, but a lie nonetheless. Chasm studied her. Then he pulled. Rashid screamed. The sound filled the cell, filled Mai's head, filled the space between who she was and who she needed to be. Chasm dropped the fingernail on the floor. It landed near Mai's feet. A small piece of her brother's pain made physical. 9 more where that came from, Chasm said. On this hand alone. Then we move to the other hand. Then the feet. Then we get creative. You decide how far this goes. Mai forced herself to look at Chasm instead of her brother. Forced herself to speak calmly. I can give you tactical information about Marine sniper operations. I can give you details about training methods. I can give you information that will help you defend against future operations. But I cannot give you information I do not have. Chasm considered this. Then he nodded. Tomorrow, he said, you will write down everything you know. Every detail. Every technique. Every weakness in American military doctrine. And it better be thorough where your brother loses more than fingernails. He left. The guards took Rashid. But before they dragged him away, Rashid looked at my one final time. He said something in their native language. Something that sounded like surrender, but meant the opposite. Survive, sister. Survive and fight. That is all that matters. Then he was gone, and Mai was alone with a piece of her brother's fingernail on the floor and the certain knowledge that Kazem had just made his second mistake. He had shown her the full extent of his cruelty, had revealed that he would torture her family regardless of her cooperation, had proven that compliance would buy nothing except prolonged suffering, which meant she had nothing left to lose, which meant she could stop playing defense and start planning offense. The revolution always starts with the prisoners. Mai had learned that in every insurgency course the Marine Corps taught. The prisoners know the guards, know the patterns, know the weaknesses. They just need someone to organize them, someone to give them hope, someone to show them that their captors are not invincible. Mai pressed her hand against the wall. Tap a new code. 9 taps. The number for soon. Her sister tapped back. Then dubs. The number for ready. Somewhere in the darkness, her brother was bleeding. Her mother was crying. 58 people were suffering, but they would not suffer much longer, because Mai had walked into this hell with a plan, and that plan was about to enter its final phase. The phase where the hunted became the hunter, where the prisoner became the weapon, where Bashir Kazem learned that some traps work both ways. They gave Mai paper and a pen at dawn. Not a real pen, a cheap plastic thing that could barely write. Not a weapon unless you were creative. Mai was very creative. Right, the guard said. Everything you know about Marine sniper operations. Kazem will read it at noon. Mai took the paper and pen. She sat cross-legged on the concrete floor and began to write. She wrote about sniper training, about range estimation and wind reading and breathing techniques. She wrote about equipment and tactics and standard operating procedures. She wrote 10 pages of information that was technically accurate and completely useless. Everything she wrote could be found in publicly available military manuals. Everything she wrote was already known to anyone who bothered to research. She gave Kazem exactly what he asked for and nothing he could actually use. At noon, the guard collected the papers. An hour later, Kazem returned. He looked angry. "This is garbage," he said, throwing the papers at her. "This is basic information any recruit would know. I asked for intelligence. For secrets. For something valuable. I gave you what I know," Mai said. "I am a sniper, not an intelligence analyst. I shoot targets. I do not plan operations or make strategic decisions. You overestimated my value." Kazem grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the wall. His face was inches from hers. His breath smelled like coffee and rage. "Do not play games with me," he hissed. "Do not think you can manipulate me with half-truths and misdirection. I have broken people far stronger than you." "Then break me," Mai said, "or kill me. But I cannot give you information I do not possess." He released her. She slid down the wall and landed on the concrete. Her throat ached where his fingers had been. "Fine," Kazem said. "If you will not give me military intelligence, you will give me something else. You will make a video. You will confess to being an American operative conducting illegal operations on sovereign soil. You will apologize for your government's aggression. You will beg for mercy." "No," Mai said. Kazem pulled out his phone and showed her a video. Her brother kneeling in a cell. 3 guards surrounding him, one holding a knife. "You will make the video, or I will send this recording to your team showing what happens when you refuse. Your choice." Mai looked at the screen, looked at her brother's face. Rashid was looking directly at the camera. His expression was clear, defiant. He mouthed 2 words. "Do not." "If I make the video, what happens to my family?" Mai asked. "They live," Kazem said. "For now, as long as you cooperate. And if I refuse, then I hurt them until you change your mind." Mais tout slowly. Her legs were stiff from sitting. Her throat still hurt, but her mind was clear. She had been buying time, gathering information, learning patterns. Now she needed to buy more time, needed to keep Kazem focused on her instead of her family. "I will make your video," Mai said, "but I want to see my mother and sister first. I want to know they are safe." "You are in no position to make demands," Kazem said. "Then you are in no position to get your video," Mai said. "You want propaganda. You want me broken and compliant on camera. That requires me to care what happens next. Give me proof my family is alive and unharmed, or you get nothing. Chasm stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. You're either very brave or very stupid, he said. I have not decided which. Fine. Tonight you will see your sister. Tomorrow you will make the video. And if you try anything, if you attempt to communicate or plan or resist in any way, I will make sure the last thing you see before you die is your brother's corpse. He left. The door locked. I sat back down and assessed her situation. She had bought another day, another night, more time for her team to plan, more time to gather intelligence, more time to find the weakness every prison had if you looked hard enough. She tapped on the wall, the rhythm for contact. Her sister tapped back immediately. She had been developing a more complex code, combinations that meant specific things. She tapped out a message. 9 taps. 4 taps. 7 taps. Meeting tonight. Stay strong. Her sister responded. Then, dubs. Ready. Hours passed. I used the time to exercise. Push-ups until her arms shook. Squats until her legs burned. Core work until her abs cramped. Physical conditioning was mental conditioning. Pain was just sensation. Weakness was just an obstacle to overcome. She thought about her team, wondered if they were still alive, wondered if Fan had actually died or if Chasm had been lying. She had no way to know. All she could do was assume they were out there, assume they were planning, assume they would come when the moment was right. At dusk, the guards came. They put her in handcuffs and leg shackles, walked her down the corridor, through a door, into another block of cells. Cell 3, Block 4, her sister's location. The guards opened the cell and shoved my inside. A young woman sat against the far wall. 16, thin, dark hair that needed washing, eyes that had seen too much but still held light. Amira. The guard closed the door but remained outside, watching, listening. Chasm was taking no chances. Mai and Amira looked at each other. 14 years. A lifetime. Mai had left the 2-year-old and returned to find nearly an adult. Amira had no memory of her older sister except stories their mother had told. You look like the photographs, Amira said quietly. Mother kept one hidden. She would take it out sometimes and tell us about you. About how you escaped. How you survived. She always said you would be strong. She was right. I am sorry, Mai said. I am sorry I did not find you sooner. I am sorry I believed you were dead. I am sorry for all of it. Do not apologize, Amira said. You lived. You became someone who could fight. That is what matters. Mother always said that if one of us survived to fight another day, then we all survived through them. Ma moved closer, keeping her voice low. The guards could see, but hopefully could not hear clearly. How many prisoners are in each block? Mai asked. Block 1 has 8 cells. All men. All the ones who tried to escape or fought back. Block 2 is where you are. 6 cells. Mix of new prisoners and one's Chasm uses for leverage. Block 3 is women. 12 cells. Block 4 is us. Families mostly. 20 cells. Block 5 is storage and guard quarters. Guard patterns, Mai asked. 7 guards on duty during day. 5 at night. They rotate every 6 hours. Change happens at 6 in the morning, noon, 6 evening, midnight. During change, there is a 10-minute window where everyone is distracted. Weapons, Mai asked. Each guard carries a rifle and sidearm. Armory is in Block 5. Locked. Chasm has the only key. Exits, Mai asked. Main gate. Back service entrance in Block 5. Emergency exit in Block 3 that leads to the north wall. That is where your team tried to breach. Chasm sealed it with concrete after. Amira leaned even closer. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. There is something else you should know. 3 of the guards are not loyal to Chasm. They want out. They want to escape, but they are afraid. One is named Hassan. He brings us extra food sometimes. He hates what happens here. If someone gave them a chance, they might help. I filed that information away. 3 guards who might turn. That could change everything. Can you get a message to Hassan? Mai asked. Maybe, Amira said. What do you want to tell him? Tell him help is coming. Tell him if he wants to live, he needs to be ready to choose a side. Tell him the Americans are here and they do not leave people behind. Amira nodded. Then she said something that made Mai's chest tighten. Mother told us you would come. Rashid did not believe her. He said you forgot about us, that you built a new life and we were just ghosts from your past. But Mother never stopped believing. She said you were training, becoming strong, that when you came back, you would bring an army. I did not bring an army, I said. I brought 5 Marines. Amira smiled. Mother says 5 Marines is an army if they are the right 5 Marines. The guards knocked on the cell door. Time up. Before they separated, I grabbed her sister's hand. Squeezed it. Be ready, I whispered. When it happens, it will happen fast. Stay low. Follow Mother. Protect each other. What about you? Amira asked. I will be protecting all of you, I said. The guards pulled her out, walked her back to her cell, locked her in. I sat on the floor and processed everything Amira had told her. 5 blocks, 70+ prisoners, 7 guards during the day, 5 at night, 3 potential allies, multiple exits. The compound was not as impregnable as Chasm wanted her to believe. It had seams, vulnerabilities, points of failure. She tapped on the wall. A new code she and Amira had developed during their brief conversation. 11 taps. Information received. Amira tapped back. 12 taps. Message delivered. Hassan knew. 3 guards knew. The seeds were planted. Outside her window, the sun set over the compound. Somewhere 4 clicks away, her team was planning. Somewhere in Block 1, her brother was bleeding. Somewhere in Block 3, her mother was praying. And somewhere in the command center, Chasm was congratulating himself on breaking a Marine sniper, on forcing her compliance, on winning. He had won nothing. He had simply armed his enemy with intelligence, had given her access to her family, had let her move through his compound and see its weaknesses firsthand. Tomorrow he would make her record a propaganda video, would parade her as proof of American weakness, would use her to negotiate or sell or leverage. But tonight, Maikuri was not thinking about tomorrow. She was thinking about the day after, about the moment when everything Chasm had built would come crashing down. She thought about her training, about every lesson learned, about the Marine Corps values drilled into her until they became reflex. Honor, courage, commitment. She thought about her team, about Briggs and Jazz and Harrington and Fan, about whether they were alive, about whether they were coming. She decided to believe they were, decided to believe in the bonds formed through combat, decided to believe that Marines did not abandon Marines. She lay on the concrete floor and closed her eyes, not to sleep, to plan, to visualize, to prepare. The chess pieces were moving. The end game was approaching. And when it came, Bashir Chasm would learn what happened when you underestimated someone who had spent their entire life becoming exactly who they needed to be. A survivor, a fighter, a weapon forged in the fire of loss and tempered in the crucible of training. Staff Sergeant Maikuri, United States Marine Corps, Scout Sniper, and she was about to remind everyone what those words actually meant. The camera arrived at dawn. Professional equipment, lights, a tripod. Chasm was not taking chances with production quality. This video would be broadcast worldwide, would be his leverage against the United States government, would be proof that he could capture and break their elite soldiers. He was right about everything except the breaking part. Mai stood in the center of her cell, wearing the clothes they had given her. Not her uniform, plain civilian clothes that made her look smaller, weaker, more like a victim than a Marine. Chasm stood behind the camera. 2 guards flanked the door. A third held cue cards with the statement I was supposed to read. When I start recording, you will say exactly what is written, Chasm said. You will speak clearly. You will look remorseful. You will be the perfect broken prisoner. Understand. I looked at the cue cards. The words were designed to humiliate, to make her confess to crimes she had not committed, to apologize for defending her country, to beg for mercy from a man who had murdered her father. I understand, I said. Chasm pressed record. The red light came on. State your name and rank, Chasm ordered. I looked directly at the camera. She spoke clearly, calmly, with the voice of someone who had made a decision and would not be swayed from it. My name is Staff Sergeant Maikuri, United States Marine Corps. Serial number 2187654. I am being held against my will by Bashir Chasm, a war criminal wanted by international authorities for human trafficking, torture, and murder. I am one of 58 prisoners being held in this compound. We are being systematically abused, tortured, and used as leverage for ransom and extortion. Kazim's face went red. He moved toward her, but Mike kept talking, faster now, getting it all out before he could stop her. My team is alive and operational. My country does not negotiate with terrorists. This video will not save you, Kazim. It will only prove your location and your crimes. The Marines are coming. Justice is coming. And when it arrives, you will answer for everything you have done. Kazim hit her, a backhand across the face that sent her sprawling. The camera kept recording, kept capturing his rage, kept documenting exactly what kind of man he was. Turn it off, Kazim screamed at the guard operating the camera. But the guard was frozen, staring at Mike with something like awe. This was Hassan, the guard Amira had spoken to, the guard who wanted out. Hassan looked at Kazim, then at Mike. Then he made a choice. He pulled his sidearm and shot the guard at his left. The man dropped. The second guard reached for his weapon, but Mai was already moving. She grabbed the plastic pen from her pocket where she had hidden it, the cheap pen she had been writing with. She had spent hours the night before sharpening it against the concrete floor until the tip was a spike. She drove it into the second guard's throat. He went down choking. Hassan turned his weapon on Kazim. "On your knees," Hassan said. His voice shook, but his aim did not. Kazim stared at him, Upmoy, at the two dead guards. His confidence cracked. For the first time since I had known him, he looked afraid. "You have made a mistake," Kazim said. "Both of you. My men will kill you for this. Your men are already dead," a voice said from the corridor. Gunnery Sergeant Briggs stepped into view. Behind him came Jazz, Harrington, and Fan. All alive, all armed, all looking very much like Marines who had just fought their way through a hostile compound. Mai felt something break inside her chest. Relief so intense it was almost painful. "You were late," Mai said. "Traffic was terrible," Briggs said. "Also, we had to kill about 20 guards and blow up your armory. Hope that is okay." Fan limped forward. His leg was bandaged, but he was moving, very much alive. "You told her I was dead," Fan said to Kazim. "That was rude." Kazim's hand moved toward his pocket. Mai kicked him in the face before he could reach whatever weapon he carried. He went down hard. "Hassan," I said. "The other two guards who want out. Where are they?" "Block 3 and Block 5, Hassan said. "They are waiting. I sent word when I saw your team breach the south wall 10 minutes ago." "Good man," Briggs said. "Now we need to move fast. This place is going to be crawling with reinforcements soon." "No reinforcements coming," Harrington said. "I have been jamming their communications since we started. They cannot call for help. But we still need to extract before someone notices the radio silence." Mai grabbed Kazim and hauled him to his feet. "Where are the cell keys?" Kazim spat blood. "You think this is over? You think killing my guards and jamming my communications wins? I have contingencies. I have insurance. I have." Mai hit him. Not a slap. A proper punch that broke his nose. "The keys," she said. "Inside pocket," Kazim gasped. Mai took the keys. Tossed them to Hassan. "Free everyone. Start with Block 1. My brother is there. Then Blocks 3 and 4. Get everyone to the main courtyard. We extract through the front gate." "That is a terrible plan," Jazz said. "The front gate is a kill zone. It is also the fastest route out," Mai said. "And we have something they do not expect." "What?" Briggs asked. "Hostages who are willing to fight back," Mai said. She grabbed Kazim by the throat and looked into his eyes. For 14 years, she had imagined this moment, had dreamed of it, had wondered what she would feel when she finally had him helpless. She felt nothing except determination. "You're going to open that gate," Mai said. "You're going to call off any remaining guards. You're going to help us evacuate every single person in this compound. And if you cooperate, you live long enough to stand trial. If you resist, I shoot you here and now and sleep well tonight anyway. Choose." Kazim looked at the Marines surrounding him, at Hassan who had betrayed him, at the bodies of his guards, at the empire he had built crumbling in real time. "I will cooperate," he said. "Smart choice," Briggs said. "Fan, wire him up. If he tries anything, we blow him remotely." Fan pulled out a small explosive charge and a radio detonator. He strapped it to Kazim's chest with practiced efficiency. This is K4, Fan said cheerfully. About half a pound, enough to turn you into a fine mist. The detonator has a range of 200 meters. So even if you run, I can still turn you into abstract art. Questions? Chasm said nothing. Good, Fan said. I like working with professionals. The team moved. Hassan ran to free the prisoners. I want to block one with Briggs. They found Rashid in a cell that smelled like blood and suffering. He looked up when the door opened. Saw the Marines. Saw freedom. He tried to stand, but his legs would not hold him. Briggs caught him before he fell. I got you, brother, Briggs said. Marines do not leave people behind. They moved through the compound systematically. Cell by cell, block by block. 58 prisoners emerged blinking into the courtyard. Mai's mother, her sister, families who had been separated, people who had forgotten what hope looked like. The two other guard Hassan had mentioned stepped forward, helped organize the evacuation, helped arm prisoners who were willing to fight if needed. Mai found her mother in the crowd. Layla looked at her daughter, at the uniform someone had given her, at the weapon in her hands, at the transformation from captive to liberator. You came back, Layla said. I never left, Mai said. I just needed 14 years to become someone who could win. They moved to the front gate. Chasm walked at gunpoint. Fan kept his finger on the detonator. The gate opened. Outside, the sun was rising over the desert. The landscape that had birthed war and suffering now witnessed liberation. Transport trucks sat waiting, not military vehicles. Civilian trucks Hassan and the other guards had prepared, enough to carry everyone. Everyone load up, Briggs ordered. Wounded first. Families together. We move in convoy. Stay tight. Stay alert. The prisoners climbed into the trucks. Slow at first, disbelieving, then faster as reality set in. They were leaving. They were free. The nightmare was ending. Mai helped her mother into a truck, helped her sister, helped her brother, who could barely walk but refused to be carried. What happens to him? Rashid asked, looking at Chasm. He goes to trial, Mai said. He answers for everything. Every person he trafficked. Every family he destroyed. Every life he ruined. Justice is slow, but it is thorough. The convoy started moving. 15 trucks carrying 58 prisoners, 3 reformed guards, 5 Marines, and 1 more criminal who had finally run out of leverage. Mai rode in the lead truck with her team. She watched the compound grow smaller in the rearview mirror. Watched it become just another building in a desert full of ruins. How did you survive? Mai asked Briggs. Chasm said you tried to breach, and Fan was killed. We did try to breach, Briggs said. Lost 2 local assets we hired for support. Fan took a bullet, but Marines are hard to kill. We pulled back, regrouped, and spent 3 days planning a real assault. Harrington hacked their security feeds. We watched you gather intelligence. Watched you turn their own guard. Watched you set up the perfect inside operation. We just provided the outside pressure. You waited 3 days, Mai said. While I was being tortured. We waited until we could win, Briggs said. Rushing it would have gotten everyone killed. You know that. You were buying time. We were using it. That is how teams work. Mai looked at her family in the truck behind them. At the other prisoners who had survived. At the people who had endured years of suffering and still found the strength to hope. How far to the border? Mai asked. 40 clicks, Harrington said. We have a contact there. Tia. They will process everyone. Start repatriation. Get people home. And Chasm, Mai asked. International Tribunal, Briggs said. He is going to spend the rest of his life in a cell answering questions. Justice is slow, but it is real. The convoy drove through the desert, through terrain that had witnessed countless atrocities, through land that had soaked up too much blood and suffering. But today it witnessed something else. Liberation. Rescue. The moment when the hunted became the hunters and the prisoners became free. Mai looked at Chasm in the truck ahead, at the man who had destroyed her childhood, who had killed her father, who had held her family captive for 14 years. She felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just the quiet certainty that some battles were worth fighting even when victory seemed impossible. The border appeared on the horizon. White tents, official vehicles, people in suits waiting to process refugees and arrest war criminals. The convoy slowed. Stopped. Doors opened. Mai's family stepped on a free soil for the first time in over a decade. They looked at the sky, at the horizon, at the future that had seemed impossible yesterday. Mai stood with her team and watched her family embrace. Watched them cry. Watched them begin the long process of healing. "You did good," Briggs said quietly. "We did good," Mai corrected. "All of us." Jazz put an arm around her shoulders. "You know, the paperwork on this is going to be insane." "Worth it," Mai said. "Yeah," Jazz agreed. "Worth it." They had gone into hell and brought back 58 souls. They had turned a war criminal's empire to ash. They had proven that some missions were worth attempting even when success seemed impossible. And in doing so, they had reminded the world that Marines never quit, never surrender, never leave anyone behind. Not even a refugee who had waited 14 years to come home. The border processing station was chaos controlled by bureaucracy. CIA officers moved through the crowd taking statements. Medical personnel treated wounds that ranged from fresh to years old. Translators worked overtime, converting 58 different stories of suffering into official reports. Mai sat with her family in a tent designated for high-priority witnesses. Her mother held her hand like she was afraid Mai would disappear if she let go. Amira sat pressed against her side. Rashid leaned against the tent pole, his wounded hand wrapped in clean bandages. His good eye watching everything with the wariness of someone who had learned never to trust safety. A woman in a dark suit entered. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, the kind of person who made decisions that changed lives. "Staff Sergeant Corey," the woman said. "I am Deputy Director Chun. Tia, I need to debrief you and your team. My family needs medical attention first," Mai said. "Real attention, not field bandages. My brother needs proper treatment for his hand. My mother needs examination. My sister needs." "Already arranged," Chun said. "Medical transport is standing by. They will be taken to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Full treatment, full support. But first I need to understand exactly what happened in that compound and how 58 international prisoners ended up at my border checkpoint with a wanted war criminal in custody." Mai looked at her mother. Layla squeezed her hand. "Go," Layla said. "Do what you need to do. We will still be here when you are done. We are not going anywhere without you. Not anymore." Mai stood and followed Chun to a separate tent. Inside, Briggs and the rest of the team were already seated around a folding table covered in maps and photographs. "Let me be clear about something," Chun said. "This operation was never authorized. You had no official support, no backup, no legal standing to conduct military operations on foreign soil. By every definition of international law, you committed an act of war." She paused and looked at each of them. "You also liberated 58 trafficking victims, captured one of the most wanted criminals in this region, and gathered enough evidence to dismantle a network that has destroyed thousands of lives over 15 years. So the question is not whether you broke rules. The question is what we do about it now." "What are our options?" Briggs asked. "Option 1, Chun said. We disavow everything. Claim you went rogue. Court-martial. Possible prison time. Your families lose benefits. Your service records are destroyed. You become cautionary tales about Marines who forgot their place." She leaned forward. "Option 2. We classify everything. You sign non-disclosure agreements that would make a lawyer weep. This mission never happened. The compound was destroyed by internal conflict. Bashir Kazem was captured by local forces who generously turned him over to international authorities. The prisoners were rescued by a multinational humanitarian effort. You go back to Camp Pendleton and never speak of this again." "What is option 3, Mai asked. "There is no option 3, Chun said. "Those are your choices. Destruction or silence." The team was quiet. Mai thought about everything they had done, every risk taken, every rule broken, every moment of pain and fear and impossible odds. All of it buried under classification. All of it erased from history. "I choose silence," Fan said. "I did not join the Marines for recognition. I joined to make a difference. We made a difference. That is enough." "Agreed," Harrington said. "Same," Jazz said. Briggs looked at Mai. "Your call, Staff Sergeant. This was your mission, your family, your choice." Mai thought about her father. About the drainage ditch where she had hidden while he died. About the girl who had run and the woman she had become. About the 14 years between them. We choose silence, I said. But I have conditions. Chen raised an eyebrow. You're not in a position to make demands. I am in the only position that matters, I said. I am the Marine who walked into that compound and turned a hostage situation into a liberation. I am the sniper who took 17 shots in 3 minutes and never missed. I am the daughter who spent 14 years becoming someone who could save her family. And I'm telling you that silence has conditions. Chen smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who recognized a kindred spirit. Name them, Chen said. Every prisoner gets asylum in the country of their choice, I said. Full support. Housing. Medical care. Job training. Education. Everything they need to rebuild lives that were stolen from them. No bureaucratic dilas. No denials. No excuses. Done, Chen said. What else? Hassan and the other 2 guards who helped us, I said. They get immunity. They get new identities if they want them. They do not go to trial with Chasm. They made the right choice when it mattered. That should count for something. Agreed, Chen said. What else? My family, I said. My mother, brother, and sister. They get American citizenship. Immediate. Not in 5 years after paperwork and interviews. Not eventually. Now. Today. They are family of a serving Marine who conducted a classified operation at great personal risk. They deserve to be Americans. Chen looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. I can make that happen, Chen said. Anything else? One more thing, I said. The video Chasm tried to make me record. The one where I told him exactly what kind of monster he was. I want that released. Not the full version. Not enough to compromise operational security, but enough that the world knows what he did. Enough that his victims see him exposed. Enough that justice is not just silent. That could complicate things, Chen said. I do not care, I said. Silence protects us, but also protects him. I want his crimes on record. I want the world to know what Bashir Chasm is. You can classify how we caught him. You can classify the operation, but you cannot classify his evil. Chen considered this. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. Spoke in clipped tones to someone who apparently had the authority to make decisions in real time. She ended the call. Edited version only, Chen said. 30 seconds. Your statement about his crimes. His reaction. Enough to convict him in the court of public opinion. But nothing about the operation. Nothing about your team. Deal. Deal, I said. Chen pulled out documents. Non-disclosure agreements. Classification waivers. Legal protections that would shield them from prosecution while binding them to silence forever. Sign these, Chen said. Make your peace with the fact that you will never be able to tell this story. Never be recognized. Never get the medals you deserve. You will go back to normal duty and pretend none of this happened. Can you live with that? I thought about the alternative. Thought about her family being deported. Thought about Hassan and the others going to prison for helping. Thought about the 58 prisoners being lost in bureaucratic limbo. Yes, I said. She signed the documents. The rest of the team followed. One by one, they committed to silence. To burying the truth. To accepting that some victories were their own reward. Chen collected the papers. Welcome to the world of classified operations, she said. Your service records will show you were on a training exercise. Nothing more. The official story is that Bashir Chasm was captured during an internal power struggle and turned over to authorities by rivals seeking favor. The prisoners were rescued by a multinational humanitarian coalition. None of you were ever here. She stood to leave, then paused. Off the record, Chen said. What you did was extraordinary. Reckless. Dangerous. Completely against protocol. And it saved lives that would have been lost to bureaucratic inaction. So thank you. Even if I can never say that officially. She left. The team sat in silence for a moment. Well, Jazz said, that was anticlimactic. We saved 58 people, fans said. We caught a war criminal. We reunited a family. How is that anticlimactic? Because we do not get a parade, Jazz said. We do not get medals. We do not get recognition. We get to pretend it never happened. Some things are worth doing even when no one is watching, Briggs said. Especially when no one is watching. That is the difference between doing your duty and doing what is right. Miss Stud, I need to see my family. She found them in the medical tent. Her mother was being examined by a doctor who spoke their native language. Amira sat nearby, getting her own checkup. Rashid was having his hand treated by a specialist who was explaining surgical options for nerve damage. Mai sat down next to her mother. Layla finished with the doctor and turned to her daughter. They said we were going to America, Layla said. They said we were going to be citizens. They said we will have a home and support and everything we need to start again. Is this true, or are they lying to make us compliant? It is true, Mai said. I made sure of it. You are coming home with me. To America. To safety. To freedom. No more running. No more hiding. No more fear. Layla started to cry. Not sad tears. Relief tears. Tears that washed away 14 years of suffering and replaced it with hope. Your father would be so proud, Layla said. He always said you were the strongest of all of us. He said you would survive anything. He was right. I survived because of him, I said. Because he taught me to be brave. Because he showed me that some things are worth fighting for even when the fight seems impossible. I carry him with me. Always. Rashid came over. His hand was bandaged better now. The pain medication was working. He looked more present. More himself. Thank you, he said simply. You would have done the same, I said. Maybe, Rashid said. But I did not. You did. You came back. You risked everything. You saved us. That means something. Amira joined them. The four of them sat together. A family reunited. A family that had survived the impossible. A family that would now rebuild. What happens next? Amira asked. Next we go to Germany for treatment, Mai said. Then we go to America. Then we start the hard work of becoming a family again. Of learning each other. Of healing wounds that go deeper than bodies. It will not be easy, but we will do it together. Outside the tent, the sun climbed higher. The desert heat intensified, but inside, surrounded by family, Mai felt something she had not felt in 14 years. Complete. Whole. Home. She had left this place as a frightened refugee. She had returned as a Marine. And now she was leaving again, this time bringing her family with her. This time ensuring no one was left behind. The mission was complete. The impossible had become reality. The girl who hid in the drainage ditch had become the woman who walked into hell and brought everyone out. And if the world never knew her name, if the story was never told, if the truth remained classified forever, that was fine, because the 58 people who were free knew. Her family knew. Her team knew. Hassan and the other guards knew. And sometimes that was enough. Sometimes the truest victories were the ones no one else saw. The battles fought in darkness. The choices made when no one was watching. The courage displayed when there would be no recognition. My Corey understood that now. Understood that being a hero was not about medals or parades or stories told in history books. It was about doing the right thing, even when it cost everything. Even when no one would know. Even when the only reward was knowing you had made a difference. She looked at her family. At the Marines who had trusted her. At the future that stretched ahead, full of challenges and healing and hope. She had become exactly who she needed to be. A refugee who became a legend. A daughter who saved her family. A Marine who never quit. And that was enough. That was everything. Ramstein Air Base looked like every military installation Mai had ever seen. Ordered. Efficient. Clean. But to her family, it looked like paradise. Hot showers. Real beds. Food that did not come from buckets or moldy bread. Simple luxuries that most people took for granted, but that meant everything to people who had forgotten what comfort felt like. Mai spent 3 days at Ramstein while doctors examined her family and the other rescued prisoners. Rashid underwent surgery to repair nerve damage in his hand. The prognosis was good. He would regain most function with physical therapy. Amira received treatment for malnutrition and a dozen minor ailments that had gone untreated for years. Layla underwent the most extensive examination, years of stress and poor conditions having taken a toll that would require ongoing care. But they were alive. They were safe. They were free. On the 4th day, Mai was called to a secure conference room. Deputy Director Chun sat at the head of a table surrounded by monitors showing courtrooms, government buildings, and news broadcasts. The video went live 2 hours ago, Chun said. Edited version. 30 seconds. Your statement about Kazim's crimes and his reaction. It has been viewed 20 million times already. Trending worldwide. Social media is on fire. International tribunals are fast-tracking his prosecution. You got what you wanted. She pulled up a news broadcast. The anchor was speaking, but my focused on the video playing in the corner. Her face, her voice, her words cutting through Kazim's carefully constructed facade. My name is Staff Sergeant Mike Corey, United States Marine Corps. I am being held against my will by Bashir Kazim, a war criminal wanted by international authorities for human trafficking, torture, and murder. Then the cut to Kazim hitting her. His rage caught on camera. His mask slipping to reveal the monster underneath. The broadcast switched to legal analysts discussing the implications, to human rights organizations calling for justice, to governments pledging support for prosecution. It is working, I said. Better than working, Chun said. We have had intelligence agencies from 6 countries reach out with additional evidence against Kazim. People who were afraid to come forward are now willing to testify. Victims who thought no one would believe them are filing reports. You started something bigger than one rescue operation. Watch the screen. Watch her own face deliver words that would help destroy a man who had destroyed so many lives. What happens to him now, I asked. International Tribunal at The Hague, Chin said. Trial expected to last months. Evidence is overwhelming. Witness testimony from your family and the other rescued prisoners will be crucial. But even without it, we have enough to put him away for multiple lifetimes. And the others, I asked. The prisoners we rescued. 17 have already been reunited with families in their home countries, Chin said. 23 have requested asylum in various nations. All requests approved. 12 are staying in the United States. 6 are undecided, but receiving support while they figure it out. Everyone is accounted for. Everyone is safe. Hassan and the guards who helped us, I asked. New identities. New lives. Hassan chose Canada. Fresh start. The other 2 chose Australia. They will never have to look over their shoulders again. Chin pulled up another file. Your team returns to Camp Pendleton tomorrow, Chin said. Back to normal duty. Back to the official story that this was a training exercise. Your after-action reports have been filed and immediately classified. As far as the Marine Corps is concerned, you spent 2 weeks in a desert doing live-fire drills and urban warfare training. And my family, I asked. They fly to the United States with you, Chin said. Citizenship papers are already processed. Faster than anything I have ever seen move through the system. Someone very high up made this a priority. You must have impressed someone, or someone understands that some debts should be paid immediately, I said. Chin smiled. Welcome to the world of political favors. Your family will be set up in base housing at Camp Pendleton initially. Then they can choose where they want to settle. Full support package. Medical. Educational. Job training. Everything we promised. She closed the files. You did good, Staff Sergeant. You turned an impossible situation into a victory. You saved lives. You brought a criminal to justice. And you did it while maintaining operational security and following the rules as much as anyone could reasonably expect. That is impressive work. I had help, I said. My team. Hassan. The other guards. My family. No one does something like this alone. True, Chin said. But someone has to be willing to start. Someone has to be willing to walk into the fire first. That was you. I returned to the medical ward and found her family packing. Not much to pack. They owned nothing except the clothes they had been given. But they were packing anyway. Going through the motions of people preparing to travel. Preparing to start over. Tomorrow we leave, Layla said. Tomorrow we go to America. To our new home. I still cannot believe this is real. It is real, I said. I promise you it is real. Rashid held up his bandaged hand. The doctor says I will be able to use it again. Maybe not perfect, but functional. I can work. I can build a life. That is more than I had yesterday. What will you do, I asked. In America. What do you want? Rashid looked at her. Then, at his mother. Then, at his sister. I want to help people, he said. People like us. Refugees who need advocates. Who need someone to fight for them. I spent years being powerless. Now I want to use my experience to make sure others do not suffer the same way. That is good work, I said. Important work. What about you? I asked Amira. What do you want to do? School, Amira said immediately. I want to finish my education. I want to learn everything I missed. I want to become a teacher maybe, or a doctor, or anything that requires me to use my mind instead of just surviving. You'll be good at whatever you choose, Mai said. She looked at her mother. And you? What do you want? Layla was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that made Mai's eyes burn. I want to watch my children grow, Layla said. I want to see them build lives. Find purpose. Maybe find love. I want normal things. Ordinary things. The things that were stolen from us. I want to cook meals in my own kitchen. I want to walk outside without fear. I want to sleep without nightmares. I want to be a mother instead of a prisoner. You will have all of that, Mai said. I promise. The next morning, they boarded a military transport. Meh, her family, her team, other passengers heading to various bases across the United States. The plane lifted off, and Europe fell away beneath them. Mai sat next to Jazz, her friend, her spotter, her sister in all the ways that mattered. You okay? Jazz asked. Yes, Mai said. Better than okay. I got the back. I got my family back. Jazz looked at Layla and Rashid and Amira sitting across the aisle. They look like you, Jazz said. Same eyes, same stubborn jaw, same expression that says they have survived worse than whatever comes next. We are survivors, Mai said. All of us. That is our legacy. The flight took 12 hours. Mai slept for some of it. Real sleep. Deep sleep. The kind of sleep that came when the impossible weight had finally been lifted, when a mission was complete, when everyone made it home. They landed at Camp Pendleton just after dawn California time. The same base Mai had left 2 weeks ago. The same place that had been home for years. But now it felt different. Now it was home for her family too. Briggs met them on the tarmac. He had showered, shaved, looked almost human again instead of like someone who had spent 2 weeks conducting an illegal military operation in hostile territory. Welcome back, he said. Officially, you were at 29 Palms conducting desert training. Everyone at the unit has been briefed. No one asked questions. You were gone. Now you are back. That is all anyone needs to know. He looked at Mai's family. Welcome to the United States, he said. Welcome to Camp Pendleton. Welcome home. Layla stepped forward. She looked at this Marine who had helped save her family. This stranger who had risked his life for people he had never met. Thank you, she said. In our language, she added words that meant more than English could convey. Words that spoke of gratitude deeper than oceans. Of debt that could never be fully repaid. Of respect for warriors who fought without seeking glory. Briggs did not speak the language, but he understood the tone. You are welcome, he said. Then he looked at Mai. Debrief at on in 100. Bring your team. After that, you have 72 hours leave to get your family settled. Then back to duty. Understood, Mai said. Briggs walked away. The team dispersed to their own quarters. Mai led her family to the temporary housing that had been arranged. A small apartment on base. 2 bedrooms. A kitchen. A bathroom with running water. Simple. Clean. Safe. Layla walked through the rooms, touching everything. The table. The chairs. The bed. Making sure it was real. Making sure it would not disappear. This is ours, Mai said. For now. Until you decide where you want to live permanently. Can we stay here? Amira asked. On base. Near you. Mai looked at her sister. At the fear still lurking behind the hope. The fear that if they separated, something terrible would happen again. You can stay as long as you want, Mai said. But eventually you might want your own place. Your own life. That is okay too. I'm not going anywhere. I will be here. Always. Rashid walked to the window and looked out at the base. At Marines running morning PT. At the flag flying in the dawnlight. At the ordered world that was so different from the chaos they had known. I want to learn about this, he said. About being a Marine. About what it means. You became this. Maybe I can too. Maybe, Mai said. But there is no rush. First you heal. You learn English better. You figure out who you are when you are not just surviving. Then you decide what comes next. They spent the day settling in. Learning where things were. How things worked. Simple tasks that would have been automatic for anyone else, but were new territory for people who had spent years with nothing. That evening, Mai stood on the balcony and watched the sun set over Camp Pendleton. Her mother joined her. Thank you, Layla said, for not giving up on us, for spending 14 years becoming someone who could save us, for coming back. I would always come back, I said. You are my family. Family is everything. Your father used to say that, Layla said. He used to say that family is not just blood. It is the people who stand with you when everything falls apart. Your team, your Marines, they are family too. Yes, I said. They are. They stood in comfortable silence watching the sky turn orange and red and purple, watching the day end and a new beginning start. I thought about the journey that had brought her here, from frightened refugee to Marine sniper, from broken child to complete warrior, from alone to surrounded by family, both blood and chosen. She thought about the price paid, the years lost, the pain endured, the impossible choices made, and she thought about what came next, about helping her family heal, about returning to duty, about the missions that would come, about the life she would build that honored both where she came from and who she had become. She was Staff Sergeant Mike Corey, United States Marine Corps, Scout Sniper, Refugee, Survivor, Daughter, Sister, Legend, and her story was just beginning. 6 months passed like water, finding its level. Slow at first, then faster, then settling into patterns that felt almost normal. Rashid's hand healed enough for him to enroll in community college. He studied political science and international relations with the intensity of someone making up for lost time. His professors said he had insights that could only come from lived experience. He said he had insights that came from surviving what should have killed him. Amira threw herself into high school with the determination of a Marine assaulting an objective. She tested into advanced classes despite gaps in her education, spent hours in the library catching up on everything she had missed, made friends who knew nothing about her past and everything about her future. Layla found work at a refugee resettlement center, helping new arrivals navigate the systems and paperwork and cultural adjustments that came with starting over. She told Mai that every family she helped was a way of honoring the years they had lost, a way of making meaning from suffering. And Mai returned to duty, back to the rifle range, back to training exercises, back to the rhythm of military life that had become home in ways she had not fully understood until she almost lost it. The unit never asked questions. Briggs had made sure of that. As far as anyone knew, Mai and her team had spent 2 weeks at 29 Palms doing desert warfare training. Nothing more, nothing less. But Jazz knew, Fan knew, Harrington knew, Briggs knew, and sometimes that quiet knowing, that shared experience that could never be spoken aloud, was better than any medal or recognition. On a Tuesday morning in March, Mai was running Private Chun through advanced marksmanship when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Trial begins today. Thought you should know. Chun. Deputy Director Chun. Still watching. Still keeping Mai informed of things that officially did not involve her. Mai excused herself and found a quiet corner of the range. She pulled up a news feed on her phone. The headline made her stop breathing for a moment. War. Criminal Bashir Kazem faces international tribunal. 58 victims prepared to testify. She clicked the article. Read about the charges. Human trafficking, torture, murder, enslavement, crimes, crimes against humanity. Each charge backed by evidence. Each count carrying potential life sentences. The article mentioned a video that had gone viral 6 months ago. A statement by an unnamed American service member. A glimpse into Kazem's compound and his methods. The video that had started everything. Mai scrolled further. Found a quote from prosecutor. This trial will show the world what Bashir Kazem truly is. A predator who built an empire on human misery. But it will also show something else. That victims can become survivors. That survivors can become witnesses. That witnesses can bring justice. Evil only wins when good people do nothing. These 58 people did something. They survived. They testified. They refused to let their suffering be meaningless. Mai closed the article. She thought about her mother working at the refugee center, about Rashid studying so he could advocate for others, about Amira planning to become a teacher, about Hassan living quietly in Canada, about all the others rebuilding lives from ashes. They had not just survived. They had transformed survival into purpose. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mother. "We are watching the trial coverage. Thinking of you. Proud of you. Love you." I texted back. "Love you too. Justice is slow, but it is real." That evening, I met her family for dinner at a small restaurant off base. A weekly tradition they had started. A way of being normal together. Of learning how to be a family again without the weight of trauma crushing every moment. Rashid was animated, talking about a paper he was writing on refugee rights and international law, about legal frameworks and policy proposals, about the gap between what existed and what should exist. "You should submit that to a journal," Layla said. "Your insights matter. Your voice matters." "Maybe," Rashid said, but his smile said he was already planning to do exactly that. Amira talked about a science project, about biology and genetics, and questions that had no easy answers. Her teacher had suggested she consider pre-med. She was considering it. "What about you?" Layla asked Mai. "How was your day?" "I taught Private Chun how to account for crosswinds at 800 meters, Mai said. He actually hit the target. Small victories." She did not mention the trial. Did not mention chasm. Some things were still too heavy to bring to the dinner table. Some wounds were still healing. But Rashid had seen the news too. Had read the articles. Had watched the coverage. "He is going to prison for the rest of his life," Rashid said quietly. "That man who destroyed so many lives. Who killed our father. Who took everything from us. He is finally facing justice." "Yes," Mai said. "He is." "Does it feel good?" Rashid asked. "Knowing he will suffer. Knowing he lost." Mai thought about that. About whether vengeance felt good. About whether watching your enemy fall brought the peace everyone promised it would. "It feels right," Mai said. "Not good. Not satisfying in the way you think it should be. Just right. Like a balance being restored. Like debts being paid. He took lives, and now his life is taken. That is justice. Justice is not always satisfying, but it is necessary." Amira leaned forward. "Do you think about it? About what happened? About the compound?" "Every day," Mai said honestly. Not in a bad way. Not like nightmares or trauma. Just remembering. Processing. Understanding how it changed me. Changed all of us. "How did it change you?" Layla asked. Mai considered the question. 6 months ago, she would have said it made her harder. Stronger. More capable. But that was not quite right. "It made me complete," Mai said. "For 14 years I was two people. The refugee who ran, and the Marine who fought. They felt separate. Like different versions of me that could not exist together. But in that compound, they became one person. The girl who survived became the woman who saved. The past and the present merged. I'm not two people anymore. I am just me. All of it. All at once." The family was quiet for a moment. Then Layla reached across the table and took Mai's hand. "Your father would say that is wisdom," Layla said. "He used to tell me that the goal of life is not to forget the hard parts. It is to integrate them, to make them part of your strength instead of your weakness. You have done that. You have become whole." They finished dinner, walked back to the car. The California evening was cool and clear. Stars visible despite the city lights. A sky that stretched forever in all directions. Mai drove her family back to their apartment. A real apartment now, not temporary base housing. A place they had chosen. A place that was theirs. Layla had decorated it with photographs and small items from their homeland, making it a bridge between past and present, between who they were and who they were becoming. Before Mai left, Amira stopped her at the door. "I have been thinking about something," Amira said, "about what I want to do with my life. I thought maybe teaching, or medicine, but I realized what I really want." "What?" Mai asked. "I want to be like you," Amira said. "I want to join the Marines. I want to become someone who fights for people who cannot fight for themselves. I want to turn what happened to us into purpose, into strength, like you did." Mai looked at her sister, 16 years old, already so strong, already so certain. "The Marines are hard," Mai said. "Harder than anything you have done. They will break you down and build you back up. They will push you past limits you did not know you had. They will demand everything from you and give you purpose in return." "I know," Amira said. "That is what I want. I want to earn it. I want to become someone who can save people the way you saved us." I pulled her sister into a hug. held her tight, felt the future unfolding in ways she could not control but could absolutely support. "Then I will help you prepare," I said. "I will train you, push you, make sure you are ready. And when the time comes, I will be there when you ship to boot camp. I will be there when you graduate. I will be there for all of it." "Thank you," Amira said, "for everything, for coming back, for saving us, for showing me what is possible." I drove back to base. Her quarters felt empty in a good way. A place that was hers. A place that held her chosen life. Her earned life. She sat on her bunk and opened her phone. Pulled up the news coverage of the trial. Read the updates. Chasm pleading not guilty. The prosecution laying out evidence. Witnesses prepared to testify. Her mother would testify next week. Would stand in that courtroom and speak truth to power. Would face the man who had imprisoned her and refused to be silenced. Rashid would testify the week after. Would tell a story. Would show the world what survival looked like. Amira would not testify. Too young. Too protected. But she would be there. Would watch. Would bear witness. And Ma would not testify at all. Her involvement remained classified. Her role in Chasm's capture officially did not exist. But her video statement would be played. Her words would echo in that courtroom. Her voice would be heard even if her name remained unknown. That was enough. That was everything. She thought about Deputy Director Chen's words 6 months ago. Some victories are their own reward. Some battles are fought in darkness. Some heroes are never named. Ma understood that now. Understood that the truest strength came not from recognition, but from knowing you had made a difference. From knowing that because you existed, because you acted, the world was slightly better. Slightly more just. Slightly more whole. She lay back on her bunk. Closed her eyes. Let exhaustion and satisfaction wash over her in equal measure. Tomorrow she would wake up and be Staff Sergeant Maikuri again. Would train Marines. Would perfect her craft. Would serve her country in ways that would never make headlines. But tonight she was just my daughter, sister, survivor, legend. And somewhere across the ocean, in a courtroom in The Hague, justice was being served. Slowly, thoroughly, completely. Bashir Chasm would spend the rest of his life paying for his crimes. The 58 prisoners he had held would spend the rest of their lives being free. That was the equation that mattered. That was the victory that counted. I smiled in the darkness. Tomorrow was a new day. Tomorrow held new missions, new challenges, new opportunities to serve and fight and protect. But tonight, for just this moment, she let herself rest. Let herself feel the weight lift. Let herself be at peace. She had kept her promise. She had brought her family home. She had delivered justice. She had become exactly who she needed to be. And that was more than enough. That was everything. 1 year after the rescue, Camp Pendleton held a ceremony that officially had nothing to do with anything classified. A standard promotion ceremony. Marines being advanced in rank. Families attending. Nothing remarkable except to the people being honored. Staff Sergeant Maikuri stood at attention while Gunnery Sergeant Briggs pinned on her new rank insignia. Gunnery Sergeant Maikuri. The promotion had come through on merit, on performance evaluations, on years of exemplary service. The classified operation that saved 58 lives and captured a war criminal had nothing to do with it. Officially, but Briggs smiled as he stepped back and saluted. And I knew that smile contained everything that could not be said aloud. Well done. Mission accomplished. You earned this. Her family sat in the front row. Layla wearing her best dress. Rashid in a suit he had bought for college interviews. Amira in her high school graduation gown. She had graduated early. Top of her class. Already accepted to several universities. Already planning to join the Marines after 1 year of college. Following her sister's path, but making it her own. Jazz and Fan and Harrington sat behind them. The team that had become family. The brothers and sisters in arms who knew the truth and would carry it silently forever. After the ceremony, there was cake and punch and small talk. I stood with her family while Marines congratulated her. Most of them had no idea what she had really done. They knew her as an exceptional sniper, a solid Marine, someone who trained hard and led by example. They did not know she had walked into a compound alone, had endured torture, had turned captivity into intelligence gathering, had orchestrated a liberation that freed dozens and brought a monster to justice. And that was fine. That was perfect. Some stories belong to the people who live them, not to the world. Deputy Director Chen appeared at the edge of the crowd, out of uniform as always, blending in perfectly. She caught my eye and gestured slightly. Mai excused herself and walked over. "Congratulations on the promotion," Chen said. "Thank you," Mai said. "I did not expect to see you here. I happened to be in the area," Chen said. "Also, I wanted to give you an update. The tribunal reached a verdict yesterday. Guilty on all counts. Multiple life sentences. No possibility of parole. Bashia Katsum will die in prison." Mai felt something settle in her chest. Not satisfaction. Not triumph. Just completion. A chapter closing. A debt paid. "Good," Mai said simply. "The 58 witnesses made the difference," Chen said. "Your family. The others. Their testimony was devastating. Clear. Unflinching. The defense had nothing. Kazum tried to claim he was protecting refugees, providing shelter. The witnesses showed exactly what kind of shelter he provided. What kind of protection? "How are they doing?" Mai asked. "The others. The ones who went to different countries." "Rebuilding," Chen said. "Some faster than others. Hassan opened a restaurant in Toronto. Doing well. The other 2 guards are working construction in Sydney. Several of the families have started advocacy organizations, helping other trafficking victims, turning their experience into purpose." "Like my mother," Mai said. "Like your mother," Chen agreed. "Trauma either destroys people or transforms them. Your family chose transformation. So did the others. That is rare. That is remarkable." Chen pulled out a small box, handed it to Mai. "This is unofficial," Chen said. "It does not go in your file. It does not get recorded anywhere. But some people very high up wanted you to have it." Mai opened the box. Inside was a medal she had never seen before. No official designation. No inscription. Just a simple design of a broken chain. "What is this?" Mai asked. "Recognition from people who cannot officially recognize you," Chen said. "From intelligence services. From governments. From organizations that work in shadows. You broke chains. You freed people. You brought justice to someone who thought he was untouchable. That matters to people who do similar work, even if they can never say so publicly." Mai looked at the medal, felt the weight of it. Not heavy, but significant. "Thank you," Mai said. "Thank you," Chen said, "for doing what needed doing, for taking risks others would not, for proving that sometimes the impossible is just difficult if you are willing to pay the price." Chen walked away, disappeared into the crowd. Mai pocketed the medal and returned to her family. Later that evening, they gathered at Layla's apartment for dinner. A real family dinner. Home-cooked food. Laughter. Stories. The normal chaos of people who loved each other and knew how lucky they were to be together. Rashid had news. He had been accepted into a graduate program for international law. Full scholarship. He would study refugee rights and humanitarian law. Would become the advocate he had promised to be. Amira had news too. She had chosen her university. Would study biology while preparing for Marine Corps officer candidate school. Would become a different kind of Marine than Mai. But still a Marine. Still someone who served. Layla had news as well. The refugee center had promoted her to director. She would oversee programs for 3 states. Would help shape policy. Would make sure other families did not fall through the cracks the way hers almost had. Mai listened to their news and felt pride so intense it was almost painful. This was what she had fought for. This moment. This family. These futures that had seemed impossible a year ago. "What about you?" Layla asked. "What is next for Gunnery Sergeant Corey?" "More of the same," Mai said. "Training Marines. Perfecting my craft. Serving where needed. Maybe deploying again eventually." She did not mention the classified briefing she had received last week. The request to join a special operations unit that conducted missions no one would ever hear about. Missions like the one she had already completed. She had not decided yet, had not committed, but the option was there. The door was open. "Will you always be a Marine?" Amira asked. I thought about that. About the 14-year-old refugee who had arrived with nothing. About the identity she had built, about the uniform that had given her purpose and direction and belonging. "I will always be a Marine," I said, "whether I wear the uniform or not. It is not just what I do, it is who I am, the values, the commitment, the understanding that some things are worth fighting for. That does not go away when you take off the uniform." "Good," Amira said. "Then I will be one too. Always." They finished dinner, cleaned up together. The simple domestic routine of a family that had earned the right to be ordinary, to be normal, to be safe. Before I left, Layla stopped her at the door. "I want to tell you something," Layla said. "Something I've been thinking about for months, but did not know how to say." "Mewitted." "Your father would be proud," Layla said. "Not just of what you accomplished, but of who you became. He always said that the measure of a person is not what they do when things are easy. It is what they do when everything is impossible, when the odds are against them, when no one would blame them for giving up. You did not give up. You became stronger. You became someone who saves people. That is the highest form of strength." "I learned it from him," I said. "From you. From Rashid and Amira. From everyone who survived and refused to let survival be the end of the story." "We are all survivors," Layla said. "But you are more than that. You are a warrior, a protector, a legend. And I am grateful every day that you are my daughter." They hugged, long and tight, the embrace of people who had lost each other and found each other again, who had been broken and healed, who had survived the impossible together. I drove back to base one last time, watched the sun set over Camp Pendleton, over the place that had become home in ways she had not expected, over the life she had built from ashes and determination. She thought about the journey, from drainage ditch to Marine Corps, from refugee to legend, from frightened child to decorated warrior, from broken family to whole. The cost had been high. 14 years, a childhood lost, a father murdered, trauma that would echo for lifetimes. But the gain had been real. A family saved, a criminal brought to justice, 58 lives freed, purpose found, identity forged, strength earned. If you enjoyed this story, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part, character, or if you have had a similar situation happen to you before. I pulled into the parking lot outside her quarters, sat in the car for a moment longer. Let the satisfaction wash over her. Let the peace settle in. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new missions, new opportunities to serve and fight and protect. The world would always need warriors, would always need people willing to walk into the fire, willing to pay the price, willing to do what needed doing. And my Corey would be there, ready, capable, unbreakable. She had started as a refugee with nothing, had become a Marine with everything, had learned that strength was not just about muscles or marksmanship. It was about heart, about refusing to give up, about loving people enough to walk through hell for them. She had learned that family was not just blood. It was the people who stood with you when everything fell apart, the Marines who risked their lives for strangers, the guards who chose right over easy, the survivors who turned trauma into purpose. She had learned that some victories were silent, some heroes unnamed, some battles fought in darkness with no witnesses except the people saved. And that was enough. That was everything. She got out of the car, walked to her quarters. Tomorrow she would wake up as Gunnery Sergeant Maikori, would train Marines, would serve her country, would continue the journey that had no real ending because service never ended. Purpose never stopped. The fight for justice and freedom and human dignity was eternal. But tonight she was just my daughter of Layla, sister of Rashid and Amira, Marine, sniper, survivor, legend. The girl who hid in the drainage ditch had become the woman who saved 58 lives. The refugee had become the warrior. The broken had become whole. And somewhere in the darkness, other people were suffering. Other families were trapped. Other monsters thought they were untouchable. But they were wrong, because people like Mai existed. People who refused to accept that evil wins. People who walked into impossible situations and made them possible. People who broke chains and freed prisoners and brought justice to those who thought they were beyond its reach. The world would always need such people, and my Corey would always be ready to answer the call. From refugee to legend, From victim to victor. From broken to complete. Her story was not over. It was just beginning. And whatever came next, she would face it the same way she had faced everything else. With courage. With honor. With the absolute certainty that some things were worth fighting for no matter the cost. She was a Marine. She was a legend. She was home. And that was everything.